Chapter 486. Qi Xiaoyuan stared at Lin Yin in shock. Then he studied Pei Yutong, who was standing in front of Lin Yin. Son. Qi Xiaoyuan swallowed his saliva. This son was way too big. Could he be the legendary giant baby? Nice to meet you. This young master is really handsome. Young master, what's your name? Qi Xiaoyuan smiled at Pei Yutong. Pei Yutong was speechless. Lin Yin was speechless. Lin Yin had just been joking. Who would have thought that Qi Xiaoyuan would take it seriously? Young master, can you move aside? I have something to discuss with your mother. Uncle will buy you a gift later. Qi Xiaoyuan grinned when Pei Yutong didn't respond. What's wrong with you? Have you ever seen a young master this big? Pei Yutong pointed at Qi Xiaoyuan's nose and gestured at his own body. When Pei Yutong heard Lin Yin, he stepped aside. Qi Xiaoyuan looked a little awkward. Boss, I was scared to death just now. I really thought that he was your son. Qi Xiaoyuan stared at Lin Yin, as though he had heaved a sigh of relief. He absolutely couldn't accept the fact that his boss had such a big son. He couldn't accept the fact that his boss was married and had a son, but that a loyal fan like him hadn't known about it at all. I was just joking. He is a good friend of mine. Lin Yin grinned. Qi Xiaoyuan heaved a sigh of relief. Boss, I'm not stupid. I just trust you too much. Boss, I believe everything you say. I'm just that loyal. Lin Yin looked as though she understood him. She wasn't stupid, but she could understand him. Boss, that imposter is too arrogant. How could an imposter make such a big scene? Qi Xiaoyuan gritted his teeth as he stared at the minivan driving slowly toward them. Boss, do you know that we, the guests who are attending the private banquet, have to prepare a greeting gift? They must be crazy about money. Are you ready? Lin Yin stared at Qi Xiaoyuan and asked anxiously. I'm ready. Qi Xiaoyuan nodded. Wei Shufeng, that fool forced me to buy it. I had no choice but to prepare it. What did you prepare? Lin Yin frowned. Don't worry, boss. It's not convenient for me to tell you now. You'll know when the banquet starts, Qi Xiaoyuan said with a smile. Lin Yin heaved a sigh of relief when she heard that. She had been afraid that Qi Xiaoyuan would be silly enough to prepare an expensive gift. Boss, look at the K1 team's lackeys. It's disgusting. Qi Xiaoyuan continued. Before Lin Yin could respond, the van finally stopped. Immediately, everyone's eyes were filled with excitement and anticipation as they sized up the nanny van. Soon, the head of the security guard stepped forward and opened the door. In the next second, Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan helped each other out of the car. Miss Lin Shuya, I often see you on TV. This time, you look even more beautiful than on TV. One of the captains said to Lin Shuya. Lin Shuya grinned and glanced at the captain. Captain Zhen, you're too kind. We watch your competitions on TV too. Chapter 487. Haha. Captain Shen is very famous in the racing industry. His driving skills are excellent too, Lin Shuya quipped. Captain Shen beamed brightly as he replied. Thank you, Miss Lin Shuya, for your compliment. This must be Miss Lin Shuya's fiancé, Mr. Han Yishuan. The two of them are a match made in heaven. The reason why the racetrack's Grim Reaper was invited to this country is not only because of Miss Lin Shuya's efforts, but also because of Mr. Han Yishuan. It's not easy to invite such an important figure. WW's captain smiled at Han Yishuan. The corners of Han Yishuan's mouth curled up into a smile. Actually, I've always had a strong passion for racing. The racetrack's Grim Reaper is my favorite racer. It's not just Yeva. Her disciples, such as Lang Mang and Butcher, are my idols. It's a great honor for Shuya and I to be able to invite a super idol like Yeva. What a hypocrite. If you want to invite someone, then invite the real one. Why did you invite an imposter? Qi Xiaoyuan sneered coldly at Lin Yin. Actually, Lin Yin didn't think that Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan had invited an imposter. After all, they wouldn't have the guts to do so. Hence, Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan must have been duped. Of course, whether they had been duped or not had nothing to do with Lin Yin. She could only say that evil people would be tortured by evil people. Haha. Mr. Han Yishuan isn't just a popular actor in the entertainment industry. He is also the heir of the Han family. Given his status and the fact that he is Yeva's biggest fan, it's only natural that he would be able to invite her. Qi Xiaoyuan sneered coldly. Lin Yin glanced at his expression and asked curiously, "What's wrong?" "Boss, don't listen to them. Back then, you didn't even give Si Mingze any face when he invited you. How can Han Yishuan compare to Si Mingze? He doesn't even have the right to shine his shoes," Qi Xiaoyuan quipped. "Si Mingze?" Lin Yin was startled. She tried to recall who he was, but she couldn't recall who he was. Back when she was abroad, there were too many people who invited her, and there were all kinds of people. "Boss, it can't be. Did you forget Si Mingze? I heard that he fought with Pei Yuqing from JM Corporation." "Who is Pei Yuqing?" "He's a monster." However, Lin Yin didn't hear him at all. The woman had gotten out of the van and revealed her face. "Racetrack's Grim Reaper. Yeva!" Someone cried out in surprise. Not long after, everyone's eyes turned to look at the woman. The woman who stepped out of the minivan was wearing a signature silver racing suit. Her hair was so long that it reached her waist, and her eyes seemed to be hiding ice. Her aura was very strong. Even though she was just standing in the distance, she gave off a feeling that no one could approach her. She was extremely cold. "Yeva, boss." Wei Shufeng stared blankly at the woman, who had just stepped out of the minivan. His eyes were transfixed, and his breathing became lighter. He was afraid that he was hallucinating. She was the goddess of his dreams. The racetrack's Grim Reaper Yeva. Chapter 488. Wow, she's quite good-looking. Qi Xiaoyuan glanced at the girl as he muttered under his breath. Qi Xiaoyuan sneered coldly when he sensed Lin Yan's gaze. "She might be good-looking, but she's far from my boss. How dare she pretend to be my boss? That's an insult to her." Lin Yan was speechless. He was indeed a fan of hers. "Everyone." Before anyone could respond, Han Yishuan grinned and walked over to the girl. "This is the famous racetrack's Grim Reaper, Madame Yeva. This is the first time Madame Yeva has appeared in the industry. As we have agreed, I hope that everyone will abide by the written agreement and not take any photos or videos of Madame Yeva. Thank you for your cooperation." Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads. They naturally understood the rules. Besides, no one would be bold enough to expose Yeva's image in public. They would be courting death if they dared to do so. "Mr. Hanishwan, don't worry. We have a high status in the industry. We know what we should and shouldn't do. What you're worried about will never happen," the captain of WW assured Han Yishuan solemnly. Han Yishuan nodded in response. Everyone was shocked to realize that the legendary racetrack's Grim Reaper, Yeva, was whispering to Han Yishuan and Lin Shuya. They seemed to be whispering something. "Boss, is she so close to Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan?" Wei Shufeng was taken aback for a moment. Then, a hint of jealousy flashed across his eyes. Why could Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan be so close to boss? If Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan could do that, why couldn't he? Regardless of whether it was his reputation or his family background, he couldn't be compared to Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan. Wei Shufeng calmed down quickly. Boss couldn't be that kind of person. He would never get close to someone just because they had a higher status. Otherwise, if a big shot like Gong Mingze had invited him, he wouldn't have rejected him so decisively. Although Wei Shufeng didn't know much about foreign affairs, he was familiar with the Gong family, which was one of the wealthiest families in China. Wei Shufeng shook his head. Why was he thinking about this? He should be satisfied that he could see boss's face and stand so close to her. "Hi, are you Wei Shufeng?" Just as Wei Shufeng lowered his head in silence, the girl suddenly appeared in front of him. Her icy aura seemed to melt a little as she smiled faintly. Wei Shufeng lifted his head and stared blankly at the goddess in his heart. When he saw the smile on her face and her eyes on him, his mind went blank. Wei Shufeng couldn't believe his eyes. Boss actually took the initiative to talk to him. "Shuya has been telling me about you. She says that you are my die-hard fan." The girl smiled. Wei Shufeng nodded frantically. "Boss, I am." Wei Shufeng glanced at Lin Shuya gratefully. "Sorry for the long wait. Update is over. Yesterday's Dior lipstick kiss was you don't understand the world of dummies. Please join the group to claim your prize. Please continue to beg for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Today, you will receive a custom-made bracelet. Please vote within this month. The bracelet is engraved with the words "May you be carefree." The bottom of the bracelet is engraved with adorable. Chapter 489. Wei Shufeng's gaze landed on Lin Shuya, as he looked at her gratefully. He hadn't expected that Lin Shuya would mention him in front of Yeva. "Shuya, thank you." Wei Shufeng was visibly moved as he thanked Lin Shuya. Lin Shuya chuckled softly as she glanced at Wei Shufeng. "Shufeng, there's no need to thank me. I know that you're a loyal fan of Madame Yeva. Before she retired, you would watch every single one of her competitions. You even gave up everything else. Hence, I think that Madame Yeva should get to know you. She would be happy to have a fan like you." "Huh?" The girl beside Wei Shufeng grinned at Lin Shuya and said, "Shuya, thank you for introducing me to him. He's quite cute." "Ah." Wei Shufeng felt as though he had been electrocuted as soon as the girl finished speaking. What did boss just say? He was quite cute. At this moment, it was like a dream, like reality and unreality were fusing together. Wei Shufeng had imagined himself chatting with boss countless times in the past. He had never imagined that boss would say that he was cute in front of him. Wei Shufeng's fair face turned slightly red. What the F***ck? Qi Xiaoyuan had the urge to slap Wei Shufeng to death when he saw him. This lad was a fake fan through and through. He didn't care about boss in person, but he wanted to sacrifice himself to the fake boss. He was hopeless. He should call the crematorium and get someone to cremate him. "Guru." Suddenly, Pei Yutong walked to Wei Shufeng's side and gazed at the girl in awe. "Hello." The girl retracted her gaze from Wei Shufeng and turned to Pei Yutong. "Guru, are you still accepting disciples? Would you consider taking me in as your disciple?" Pei Yutong gazed at the girl with anticipation. "Disciple?" The girl was taken aback when she heard Pei Yutong. Yes. I'm accepting a disciple." Pei Yutong nodded solemnly. Then he said solemnly, "Guru, I'm extremely talented in racing. I believe that if you accept me as your disciple, my racing skills will definitely surpass Lang Mang and Butcher. However, I'm sure they won't lose to me. Of course, as long as you're willing to accept me as your disciple, I'll accept any conditions." Pei Yutong raised his head, his eyes gleaming. He seemed to be announcing that he was rich. Although Pei Yutong's request was a little excessive, Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan didn't say anything. Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan weren't aware of Pei Yutong's identity. However, he had been introduced by an influential figure in the industry. His identity couldn't be simple. Before he could respond, Lin Yin pulled him back. "Sister-in-law, what are you doing? This is a turning point in my life. It's a huge opportunity." Pei Yutong glanced at Lin Yin in confusion. Lin Yin glanced at him, wanting to spend money to become the disciple of an imposter. Don't even think about it. She could become the disciple of an imposter, but she couldn't spend money. "Do you believe that I won't tell your brother?" Lin Yin whispered to Pei Yutong. Lin Yan's tone sounded as though she was threatening him. "Do you believe that I won't tell your mother?" Initially, Pei Yutong had been aggressive. However, as soon as Lin Yin spoke, he deflated like a deflated balloon. He no longer had the slightest bit of anger. Chapter 490. Pei Yutong shuddered involuntarily at the thought of his big brother. No matter what, I can't let Big Brother know about this. If Big Brother knows about this, my legs will be broken. Haha, sister-in-law, no. My dear father, look at what you're saying. Wasn't I just joking just now? How could I possibly become his disciple? Daddy, you're willing to teach me racing techniques. That's more than enough. I don't need anyone to teach me. Pei Yutong smiled apologetically at Lin Yin. Lin Yin shook her head in disdain. I refuse. Huh. Pei Yutong was taken aback. What do you mean? I refuse to teach you. Lin Yin was ruthless. Pei Yutong was speechless. Why are you here? Before Pei Yutong could respond, Han Yishuan and Lin Shuya had discovered that Lin Yin had stepped forward to pull Pei Yutong back. Han Yishuan's eyes darted to Lin Yin with a frown. Before Lin Yin could respond, Han Yishuan hissed coldly. How did you sneak in here? Why haven't you given up yet? Why do you insist on pestering Shuya and me? You even came to harass our guests today. Everyone's eyes darted to Lin Yan when they heard Han Yishuan's words. Lin Yan glanced at Han Yishuan, looking perplexed. Where did this fellow get his sense of superiority from? Yishuan, calm down. Sister might have met her by chance. Lin Shuya grabbed Han Yishuan's arm gently and tried to calm him down. Han Yishuan frowned as he glanced at Lin Shuya. Shuya, although I don't know how this woman managed to sneak in today, I'm sure she has a motive. She chose to come at the same time we invited Madame Yeva. How could there be such a coincidence? Yeva glanced at Lin Yan coldly before she turned to Han Yishuan. Mr. Han, isn't she an invited guest? No. Han Yishuan shook his head. Yeva's eyes hardened. Mr. Han, you should know that I have already said that I will only meet my fans and people in the industry. How can I allow anyone to come here? I'm sorry, Madame Yeva. This is our oversight. I will resolve it immediately. Han Yishuan glanced at the girl apologetically. Get him out. Han Yishuan glared at Lin Yan in disgust before he turned to the security guards and yelled at them. Dad, who is this person? Are you familiar with him? Pei Yutong lowered his voice and asked. Is he one of the rumored boyfriends? Lin Yan was speechless. It wasn't a scandal, it was an ex-boyfriend. I don't know him very well. His name is Han. Lin Yan lowered her head as though she was deep in thought. She didn't have a good memory for people who weren't important to her. F***CK. Who the F***CK are you? Why are you acting all high and mighty here? Do you believe that I won't beat you up? Pei Yutong glared at Han Yishuan as he shouted coldly. What kind of joke was this? How could his sister-in-law be chased out by someone like him? Had he eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts? If Big Brother were to find out about this, wouldn't his teeth break? Of all people, why did he have to provoke the king of hell's woman? Chapter 491. Of course, as Yan Pei's brother, he couldn't back down. Big Brother wasn't around, so he had to protect Big Sister-in-law. Otherwise, if Big Brother found out, he would be the one in trouble. Sir, please step aside. This has nothing to do with you. Han Yishuan glanced at Pei Yutong expressionlessly. Huh? Nothing to do with me? Why does it have nothing to do with me? Do you know who I am? Do you know who she is? Do you know who she is to me? Do you know who I am to her? Pei Yutong bellowed. Han Yishuan frowned when he heard that. Why was this man behaving like a lunatic? Why was he speaking so incoherently? It was ridiculous. Han Yishuan knew that this man's identity couldn't be that simple. When Pei Yutong's name had appeared on the invitation list, they had investigated him as well. However, the result of the investigation was that Pei Yutong managed an extremely weak team. Besides that, the man's identity seemed to be a mystery. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't find out anything. I'm curious. Who exactly are you? Han Yishuan glanced at Pei Yutong expressionlessly. Pfft. Do you think you're fit to know my identity? Pei Yutong snorted coldly. Although he wanted to reveal his identity, Big Brother had forbidden him from stirring up trouble, especially when he was Pei Yuqing's brother. Hence, no one knew Pei Yutong's identity. Even if a small number of people knew, they wouldn't dare leak it. Pei Yutong himself wouldn't dare to do so either. Daddy, don't worry. I'm a man. As long as I'm around, no one will dare to bully you. Pei Yutong turned to Lin Yan with a serious expression. Yeah, you're a good boy. Lin Yan nodded eagerly. She was touched and relieved. He was indeed a good son. She hadn't doted on him for nothing. So, Pei Yutong replied solemnly, when we fight later, remember to protect me. Lin Yan was speechless. Pei Yutong knew how powerful his father was. These bodyguards wouldn't be a match for his father, but they would be more than enough to protect him. Lin Yan glanced at Pei Yutong, feeling touched. However, when she heard Pei Yutong's words, her emotions vanished. This naughty kid. Chase her out. At that moment, Han Yishuan finally lost his patience. Let's see who dares. Suddenly, Qi Xiaoyuan, who had been standing beside Lin Yan, stepped forward with a cold expression on his face. Young Master Qi, what are you doing? Han Yishuan was slightly puzzled. I invited Miss Lin here. How dare you attack her? Qi Xiaoyuan hissed coldly. Before Han Yishuan could say anything else, Mumu and God Zi from ZH1 strode over. Mr. Han, what's the meaning of this? Miss Lin was invited by ZH1. Is this how you treat her? God Zi glared at Han Yishuan. God Zi also invited old Miss Lin Yan? Qi Xiaoyuan asked. Yeah, we happened to have an extra spot, so we gave it to Miss Lin, replied God Zi. Understood. Qi Xiaoyuan nodded. In other words, boss was invited here by a few reputable people. However, this Han Yishuan actually dared to be so rude. Wei Shufeng stared at Qi Xiaoyuan in astonishment. Since when had Qi Xiaoyuan hooked up with Lin Yan? He had even disobeyed boss's orders to stand up for Lin Yan. Was he crazy? Chapter 492. Han Yishuan glanced at Pei Yutang, Qi Xiaoyuan, and God Zi in astonishment. How could this be possible? What was Lin Yan's relationship with them? Lin Yan hadn't snuck in. She had been invited by all three of them at the same time? Moreover, the three of them had gone to such lengths to confront him, the organizer of this private dinner, just to stand up for Lin Yan? What was their relationship with Lin Yan? Han Yishuan instinctively glanced at Lin Shuya. Lin Shuya seemed to be deep in thought. She wasn't surprised that God Zi had appeared. She had studied a lot of racing knowledge recently to get the role of the racetrack's Grim Reaper in Legend. She had also watched many competitions in the country. Before Meeting One's match had been released, WW had challenged ZH1. Although she didn't know what had happened, the He family team had replaced ZH1 and competed against WW. In the end, Lin Yan had managed to beat WW. Although Lin Shuya knew that Lin Yan had been a racer overseas, she hadn't expected that Lin Yan would be so good at racing. She had even managed to beat a top team like WW. Hence, Lin Yan had to be acquainted with ZH1's captain, God Zi. What she hadn't expected was that other than ZH1's God Zi, Qi Xiaoyuan, and the mysterious Pei Yutang, would also stand up for her. Ha! Lin Shuya's eyes trailed to Lin Yan as the corners of her mouth curled up into a sneer. She had really underestimated her sister. How could she hook up with three men at the same time? She wasn't simple at all. Madam Yeva, this is my sister. She isn't an outsider. She's also a member of a small team. Lin Shuya glanced at the frosty girl as she spoke softly. The girl glanced at Lin Yan expressionlessly and replied coldly, I don't care who she is or which team she's from. I just hope that this won't happen again. Miss Yeva, we promise that there won't be any accidents. It was just a misunderstanding. The female assistant behind Lin Shuya assured her. Little Z, it's not that I want to scold you, but today is a friendly match between us and Madam Yeva. We agreed that we wouldn't invite outsiders. It's not nice of you to bring someone over and make everyone unhappy. One of the K-team's captains glanced at God Zi impatiently and glanced at Lin Yan with disdain. Miss Lin Yan is my good friend and a talented racer. What do you mean by an outsider? God Zi quipped. Ehe, what do you mean a female racer with decent skills? The K1 team's only female captain sneered at God Zi. I know almost all the capable female racers in the country, but I'm sorry, I really don't know her. You're a female racer yourself. How could you look down on female racers? Isn't Madam Yeva a female racer too? Lin Yan chuckled nonchalantly. The female K1 racer was taken aback. She glared at Lin Yan coldly and said, Don't try to change the topic. What I mean is that I know all the capable female racers in the country, but I don't know you. Lin Yan nodded. What a coincidence. What do you mean? Lin Yan replied. I don't know you either. End of update. Moi yesterday, the baby who won the adorable bracelet was GG of the Super Koi Fish. Today, one person will continue to get the adorable bracelet, and there will be a monthly ticket draw event. Chapter 493. The female captain of the K1 team's eyes gleamed coldly when she heard Lin Yan. This woman's sarcasm was amusing. The female captain of the K1 team sneered coldly. Even if you don't know me, I'm the captain of a top team in the country. You're just a small team. If you hadn't hooked up with these men, I'm afraid you wouldn't even have the right to meet Madame Yeva. How can you say that? Pei Yutong stepped forward before Lin Yin could respond. He glared at the captain of the K1 team and said, I remember that your name is Zhou Yuan, right? Didn't you brush your teeth today? Why do you have such a foul mouth? Sister Yan's driving skills are probably better than yours. Zhou Yuan didn't think much of the first half of Pei Yutong's sentence. The corners of her mouth curled up into a smirk. Even if I close my eyes, she won't be able to catch up to me. Indeed. Lin Yin nodded calmly. She might not be able to catch up with her eyes open. Zhou Yuan, forget it. Before Zhou Yuan could retort, the captain of the K1 team stepped forward and said, What's the point of arguing with a small team? Don't embarrass yourself in front of others. Hearing this, Zhou Yuan was slightly taken aback. However, his words were not without reason. Let's go. We're about to race with Madame Yeva. Moments later, the K1 team entered the venue with their beloved Miss Yeva at the front and back. Boss, these people are asking for a beating. Qi Xiaoyuan stood beside Lin Yan, looking furious. If they knew that you're the real Yeva, I wonder what they would think. The K1 captains are such fools. Lin Yan chuckled softly at Qi Xiaoyuan's words but didn't comment. To Lin Yan, status didn't matter in the racing industry. Her ability was the only thing that mattered. Even though she had abandoned the name Yeva forever, given time, she could still become a new Yeva. Oh yeah, boss. Do you think that imposter can beat the K1 team? Qi Xiaoyuan gazed at Lin Yan with an odd expression on his face. Boss, K1 is the best racing team in the country. If the imposter loses, won't her identity be exposed? Qi Xiaoyuan asked. If she wasn't strong enough, she wouldn't have dared to impersonate me, replied Lin Yan softly. That is true. Qi Xiaoyuan nodded, but he was still curious. But, if the imposter really has the ability to outrun K1, there is no need for her to pretend to be the boss for money, unless the imposter has some other purpose. But based on the current situation, it looks like she is really here for money. Actually, Lin Yin was doubtful about Qi Xiaoyuan's analysis. Just as Qi Xiaoyuan had said, if she could really beat the entire K1 team, she wouldn't need to pretend to be someone else to earn money. She could just join an international team and make a fortune. Perhaps Qi Xiaoyuan was right. That woman might have some ulterior motive for impersonating her. Of course, it was also possible that she didn't have the ability to outrun K1. However, if it was the latter, then everything could be explained, and the friendly match that was about to begin would definitely not start smoothly. Don't worry, just treat it as a monkey show. Lin Yin chuckled softly. Chapter 494. Qi Xiaoyuan gazed at Lin Yan and nodded vigorously. Boss, you're right. Let's just treat this as a monkey show. Anyway, the truth can't be faked. Before Lin Yan could respond, Qi Xiaoyuan surveyed the surroundings to ensure that no one could hear him. Then he whispered to Lin Yan, Boss, I really don't understand. Boss, you're the real Yeva. Why can't you reveal your identity? Boss, look at how arrogant the captain of Team 1 is. I really want to beat her to death. She can't even recognize Yeva, and even mocked her. Instead, she has to be so respectful to an imposter. Boss, you're so aggrieved. Qi Xiaoyuan wished that he could tell the world that Lin Yin was Yeva. If Lin Yin hadn't been there, he would have blurted it out. Lin Yin merely grinned. What's there to be aggrieved about? You won't feel so aggrieved when the banquet begins. Qi Xiaoyuan's eyes lit up as he gazed at Lin Yin excitedly. Boss, are you going to reveal your identity during the banquet? No. If you want to reveal your identity, leave it to me. Let me tell you, I'm going to buy an electric loudspeaker. Lin Yin was speechless. Boss, are you going to tell me or not? I'm dying of anxiety, Qi Xiaoyuan quipped. Do you think that people will believe me even if I tell them that I'm Yeva? Lin Yin grinned at him. Huh. Qi Xiaoyuan froze on the spot when he heard Lin Yin. Why wouldn't they believe me? Why wouldn't they believe that you're Yeva? Qi Xiaoyuan snapped out of his daze. If I asked you to tell Wei Shufeng that Lin Yin is Yeva, would he believe you? Lin Yin glanced at Qi Xiaoyuan. He wouldn't. Qi Xiaoyuan instinctively spoke without any hesitation. Wei Shufeng is a fool. Even if I told him, he wouldn't believe me. Boss, let me tell you. Wei Shufeng has always thought that you wanted to get close to him. You even imitated Yeva to get close to him. Lin Yin was speechless. Lin Yin wasn't surprised. Wei Shufeng had indeed thought so. It's indeed troublesome to explain one's identity. Lin Yin shrugged. No, boss. You are Yeva. It doesn't matter even if people don't believe you. If they don't believe you, they can beat them until they are convinced. Qi Xiaoyuan exclaimed. That's a good idea. Lin Yin stroked her chin and grinned. Ha, what do you think, boss? I'm smart, aren't I? Boss, you're a legend in the racing world. If anyone doesn't like you, then get on the track and send them all off the track. Let's see who dares to not like you. Qi Xiaoyuan was getting more excited as he gestured with his hands. Think about it. Lin Yin chuckled softly. Sigh, boss, what are you still thinking about? Just looking at them makes me angry. Oh right. Tonight's private banquet will be attended by a big shot from abroad. He's also a super loyal fan of yours. I think it will be very lively tonight. Why don't we take this opportunity? When Qi Xiaoyuan raised his head, he realized that Lin Yin was already in front of him. Wei Shufeng was stalking toward her, with an unfriendly expression on his face. Lin Yin. Wei Shufeng walked over to Lin Yin with a frown on his face. Speak, said Lin Yin. What do you want? Wei Shufeng hissed coldly. Sorry for the long wait. There's still a show tonight. Chapter 495. Lin Yin remained expressionless when she saw that Wei Shufeng was hostile. She glanced at him and asked, What's wrong? Lin Yin, you usually appear wherever I am. That's fine, but if you mess around today, you will get yourself into trouble. Wei Shufeng hissed at Lin Yin. Qi Xiaoyuan, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but shake his head. Wei Shufeng was being silly again. In Qi Xiaoyuan's opinion, Wei Shufeng was digging his own grave. The more delighted he was, the greater the price he would have to pay in the future. What if Wei Shufeng found out that Lin Yin was his boss one day? What would he do? Would he want to bang his head against the wall to end all his troubles? Lin Yin, let me warn you. I don't care who invited you here. If you dare to mess around, I will make you suffer. Wei Shufeng glared at Lin Yin as he spat out these words. Little Feng. Suddenly, Qi Xiaoyuan strode forward and glanced at Wei Shufeng. Are you done? She didn't do anything to you. What's wrong with you? As soon as Qi Xiaoyuan finished speaking, Wei Shufeng turned to look at him. Wei Shufeng found Qi Xiaoyuan's behavior very unusual today. He had no idea why Qi Xiaoyuan had done that. Not only had he invited Lin Yin, but he had also protected her. Logically speaking, this shouldn't have happened. Qi Xiaoyuan, what's wrong with you? Wei Shufeng stared at Qi Xiaoyuan with a frown. What do you mean what's wrong with me? I should be the one asking you what's wrong with you, Qi Xiaoyuan retorted. Did you really hook up with her? Wei Shufeng's eyes widened in shock. The corners of Qi Xiaoyuan's mouth twitched. He wanted to, but how could he? Besides, his love for Boss was pure and unadulterated admiration. What did he mean by hooking up with her? Cut the crap. Miss Lin Yin is my idol. I really like her movies, especially her role. Lin Piampian. Wei Shufeng fell silent as he tried to recall what he had heard. Lin Yin was speechless. It's Lin Pianro. Lin Yin corrected him. It was obvious that Qi Xiaoyuan didn't do his job well. Oh yes, Lin Pianro. Qi Xiaoyuan nodded. She's really good. There was no way Wei Shufeng would believe him. Qi Xiaoyuan, don't you never watch movies? Wei Shufeng quipped. When Meeting One's match was screened, he refused to watch it even if she gave him a ticket. How can that be the same? I didn't watch it in the past, but that doesn't mean that I won't watch it now. In the future, I will watch every movie that Miss Lin stars in. Qi Xiaoyuan quipped. Wei Shufeng was puzzled when he heard Qi Xiaoyuan. He knew Qi Xiaoyuan very well, so there was no way he would believe Qi Xiaoyuan's lies. Lin Yin, let me warn you. Stay away from me and my friends. I don't care what tricks you use to make Qi Xiaoyuan protect you, But don't challenge my patience. Wei Shufeng's eyes were cold and hard. Of course. Lin Yin grinned and turned to Qi Xiaoyuan. Right? No, of course not. Just stay away from him. Qi Xiaoyuan blurted out anxiously. Little Feng, you're hopeless. You will regret this. You will want to kill yourself. Qi Xiaoyuan looked at Wei Shufeng helplessly. Chapter 496. Qi Xiaoyuan was fuming with rage. Wei Shufeng was really a fool. He was trying to save him, yet he couldn't tell? He even thought that Qi Xiaoyuan and Wei Shufeng had hooked up. He was hopeless. In the future, he would have to suffer the consequences of his actions. Lin Yan, don't think that I don't know why you're here. If you disturb Yeva, I won't let you off. Other than trying to get close to me, you have another motive. Even if you want to fight for the role of Yeva, you should have done it openly. You shouldn't have used my friend to bring you here. You shouldn't have used this method to attract attention. Wei Shufeng hissed coldly at Lin Yan. Lin Yan was dumbfounded when she heard Wei Shufeng. She wanted to jump up and clap for him. This fellow's imagination was too vivid. It was a waste of his talent to be an actor in the entertainment industry. I think you should change your career. Lin Yan grinned at Wei Shufeng. You shouldn't be an actor. Given your imagination, you should be an author. I think that being an author would be more promising for you. Wei Shufeng snorted coldly. Stop bullshitting me. You'd better remember what I said. Wei Shufeng pulled Qi Xiaoyuan to his side. Come with me. From now on, you will stay by my side. I don't. Who wants to stay by your side? I want to stay by Miss Lin Yan's side. I don't want to be apart from you. Hey, don't pull me. You rascal. Lin Yan shook her head helplessly as she watched Wei Shufeng drag Qi Xiaoyuan away. Indeed, just as Qi Xiaoyuan had said, Wei Shufeng wasn't very smart, however. If one were to say that he wasn't smart, he would have a vivid imagination. He could even use his own logic to come up with all sorts of weird ideas. Sister-in-law, what happened? What is that fellow doing? Do you need me to teach him a lesson? Pei Yutong strode over to Lin Yan. Forget it. Lin Yan glanced at him. If anything happens, I have to protect you. Sister-in-law, look at what you're saying. Given our relationship, isn't it normal for you to protect me? In the future we can divide the work. If anyone provokes us, you'll be in charge of beating them up. Pei Yutong said. Lin Yan was taken aback. If I'm in charge of beating them, what about you? Pei Yutong chuckled sheepishly. I'll be in charge of scolding them. Lin Yan was speechless. She really couldn't tell that Pei Yutong was Pei Yuqing's younger brother. Actually, if she hadn't known about their relationship, she wouldn't have believed that Pei Yutong was Pei Nanchu's brother. How could they be brothers? The gap between them was too big. It was no wonder that no one had ever suspected Pei Yutong's identity. His personality was the best disguise in the world. Even if someone were to tell everyone that Pei Yutong was Pei Nanchu's or Pei Yuqing's brother, no one would believe it. Lin Yan's heart ached for Pei Yutong as she stared at the chattering Pei Yutong. It seemed like Pei Yuqing's parents had been a little biased. Update has ended. The name of the adorable bracelet is Pei Tiantong's Yeva. Please join the prize group to claim the prize. Please continue to ask for monthly votes and recommendation votes. You can claim your monthly votes. This chapter will continue with the monthly votes. You can claim a monthly vote. Chapter 497. A few minutes later, Lin Yan, Pei Yutong, Qi Xiaoyuan, and the others arrived. The venue was huge, and the facilities were perfect. This was the venue for the top teams in the country. There were about a dozen racing cars parked in the arena. Among them, there was a silver racing car that was especially recognizable. Lin Yan's eyes trailed to the silver car, as she fell into deep thought. It seemed like Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan had put in a lot of effort to imitate the car that she had used in the WZ team. At this moment, the imposter was surrounded like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon. Madam Yeva, can we start now? One of the K1 captains walked over to Yeva with a bright smile on his face. The imposter's eyes trailed to the captain as she mulled it over. Let's change the format. Huh. Everyone was stunned when they heard what the imposter said. Madam Yeva, what do you mean by changing the format? The captain of the K1 team asked, looking puzzled. I have already told Miss Shuya that I have been too busy today, so my injury has flared up. I don't think I'm in a good condition to compete in a friendly competition. It's best if we change the format, the imposter replied softly. The K1 team had never expected that there would be a sudden change in the format. Is there a problem? The imposter furrowed her eyebrows. Her eyes gleamed as though she was saying, it's an honor to be able to compete with you. Don't be so shameless. I hope that everyone can understand Madam Yeva. She has retired temporarily because of her injuries. We invited her to the country, so she's a little tired. Given her current condition, it's not suitable for her to participate in a friendly competition. Lin Shuya chuckled softly. All right then. Actually, it doesn't matter. It's an honor to be able to compete with Madam Yeva. One of the K1 captains stepped forward with a smile. The corners of Lin Yan's mouth curled up into a smile. It seemed like he had guessed correctly. This imposter was indeed capable, but she probably wasn't capable enough to defeat K1, the top racing team in China. Hence, what happened now was reasonable. Madam Yeva, how do we do it? The leader of the K1 team asked curiously. It's rare that half of the Chinese racing circle is here today. Since that's the case, let's have an exhibition match, the imposter said softly. Exhibition match? The K1 team fell into deep thought after hearing this. It wasn't impossible for the K1 team to hold an exhibition race. Boss, it's an exhibition race. I wonder if Boss will show off his amazing skills? Wei Shufeng gazed at the imposter expectantly. The imposter's eyes landed on Wei Shufeng as she chuckled. Do you want to watch? Of course. Wei Shufeng nodded eagerly. Yeva's amazing skills weren't something that could be seen anytime or anywhere. Usually, she would only use them when she felt threatened. Chapter 498. When they heard that the imposter was going to show off her skills, everyone cheered and cheered. Lin Yan's curiosity was piqued. How dare this imposter say something like that? Was she really planning to show off her skills on the track? Stop pretending, Qi Xiaoyuan whispered to Lin Yan. This imposter claims that she can show off your racing skills. How is that possible? Actually, Lin Yan was curious as well. She was looking forward to seeing if the imposter would be able to fulfill her promise. Before long, all the members of the K1 racing team walked onto the track and entered their cars. Before long, more than 10 cars started to move simultaneously. Although the imposter had changed her mind at the last minute, the K1 team had been caught off guard. They hadn't rehearsed for this competition, but they were still the best team in the country. Hence, they had great teamwork. The K1 team had used about 15 minutes to finish the competition. Although there were some flaws in their performance, the fact that they hadn't rehearsed beforehand was enough to prove that they weren't simple. After the K1 team was done, the imposter slowly walked onto the track, surrounded by the crowd. Suddenly, the imposter was the only one left. She was wearing a silver uniform, and her back was facing everyone. On her right was a silver car. After putting on the helmet, the imposter looked so much like Lin Yan that it was almost as though she was the real deal. Even Lin Yan felt as though she was watching her own race. Wei Shufeng and the others had their eyes glued to the imposter. Their eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. Even Qi Xiaoyuan leaned forward and stared at the imposter. The only difference was that Qi Xiaoyuan was merely curious. He wanted to see how the imposter was going to show off Lin Yan's skills. The imposter opened the door and got into the silver car. Then she started the car and started the engine in one smooth motion. Whoosh! Almost instantly, the silver racing car sped away like a wild horse. F***ck. She's really something, Qi Xiaoyuan muttered to himself. It had to be said that this imposter had put in a lot of effort to impersonate her boss. Even the way she had opened the car door was exactly the same as Lin Yan. If Qi Xiaoyuan hadn't known who she was, He would have been blinded by her, just like Wei Shufeng. Lin Yan stood beside Pei Yutong as she stared at the silver car, deep in thought. This was truly a professional imitation show. Judging from every single detail and rhythm, the imposter had done a flawless job. She had imitated Lin Yan's state of mind perfectly. Sister-in-law, look, he's so awesome. Pei Yuqing turned to Lin Yan excitedly without turning his head. Sister-in-law, look. She's indeed a legend on the racing track. Her control over the curve, and her control over the rhythm, are simply invincible. Too strong. If I had a tenth of this power, I would be invincible. Before Lin Yan could respond, the silver car made a beautiful side horizontal drift at one of the bends. Chapter 499. When Wei Shufeng saw the way the side horizontal drift ended in a curve, he was overwhelmed with excitement. This was the first time I went to watch Boss's competition live. It was a classic ending move. I still remember what the commentator said. It was breathtaking. Wei Shufeng exclaimed as he looked at Qi Xiaoyuan. Qi Xiaoyuan glanced at Wei Shufeng in disdain. Is that so? Why do I feel that there's something strange about her? She doesn't seem as smooth as she used to be. Wei Shufeng was startled by Qi Xiaoyuan's words. She doesn't seem as smooth as she used to be? No, she doesn't seem any different. I can't tell. Haha, if you can't tell, then that means you're not professional enough. You're obviously not even 1/10,000th of your former self, okay? You're worlds apart from Boss back then. Sigh, I'm so disappointed. Qi Xiaoyuan sneered and shook his head. Wei Shufeng stared at Qi Xiaoyuan with a frown. Qi Xiaoyuan, what do you mean? Do you think that Boss isn't as good as she used to be? Is that why you want to stop being a fan? The corners of Qi Xiaoyuan's mouth twitched as he stared at Wei Shufeng, as though he was an idiot. Quit being a fan? Who was the one who quit being a fan? Wei Shufeng was a fake fan through and through. Before Qi Xiaoyuan could continue to mock Wei Shufeng, the crowd erupted in cheers. On the track, the imposter executed several of Yeva's maneuvers. Yeva rarely used these maneuvers in competitions. Wei Shufeng ignored Qi Xiaoyuan and joined the crowd in cheering. Not bad. Lin Yan stared at the silver car and chuckled softly. The imposter had put in a lot of effort. She had imitated the techniques that she had mastered well. However, even though she had imitated Yeva perfectly, the difference was obvious. Back then, Lin Yan hadn't done this to perform. She hadn't done it because she wanted everyone to remember her. Everything she had done had been to win the competition. That was all. Lin Yan had come up with these tricks to save time. Everyone knew that a second's delay on the racing track was akin to 1,000 miles behind. However, the imposter had put the cart before the horse in order to better imitate the technique. She had spent a lot of time to complete it. If that was the case, then what was the point of all these racing techniques? It was indeed difficult to imitate, and it was not easy to successfully imitate. However, if one forgot the ultimate goal, such an imitation would be meaningless. Sister-in-law, look, did you see that? Sister-in-law, you have to learn. You have to teach me. Pei Yutong turned to Lin Yan after the imposter's performance was over. Isn't that easy? Lin Yan spoke to Pei Yutong. Easy. Pei Yutong froze in shock. How could it be easy? Are you kidding me? That's Yeva's racing skills. Lin Yan sighed but didn't explain further. Of course, it was easy to just imitate these movements. But if it was used in actual combat, and could greatly reduce the time needed, then it could be called skill. Chapter 500. Imitation. Racing techniques. Pei Yutong was bewildered by Lin Yan's words. What did she mean by imitation? Lin Yan, what did you just say? Wei Shufeng strode over to Lin Yan and stared at her with a stoic expression. What's wrong with you? Lin Yan glanced at Wei Shufeng. Why was this fellow haunting her like a ghost? Why couldn't he figure out his own position? Did you just say that Yeva's racing techniques are simple? Wei Shufeng's eyes were cold, as though his idol had been insulted. Is it that difficult? I can do it too. Lin Yan grinned and shrugged. You can do it too. Wei Shufeng burst into laughter at Lin Yan's words. It was as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. Oh my god. Miss Lin Yan, you're too good at bragging. Qi Xiaoyuan interjected hastily. Who do you think that woman is? She's the racing legend Yeva. How dare you say that Yeva's racing skills are simple? Wei Shufeng glanced at Qi Xiaoyuan, as though he had finally regained his composure. What did you say? You can do it too. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. What a joke. Alright. Come on, go ahead. If you're so capable, go ahead and compete with our boss. Do you dare? Of course you dare. Come on, go ahead and compete. Qi Xiaoyuan hollered at the top of his lungs. Lin Yan was speechless. She doesn't have the right to compete with boss. Wei Shufeng muttered to Qi Xiaoyuan. That's right, little Feng. You're absolutely right. She doesn't have the right. But we have to let her compete with boss. We have to let her know how foolish her arrogance is. We have to let her know that boss is an insurmountable moat. Qi Xiaoyuan said. The impostor walked over with Lin Yan and Han Yishuan, as though she wanted to say something to Wei Shufeng. Coincidentally, they overheard their conversation. Boss! At the sight of the impostor, Wei Shufeng forgot all about his anger towards Lin Yan. Boss, listen to me first. I'm your super loyal fan, and Wei Shufeng's good friend. My name is Qi Xiaoyuan. Qi Xiaoyuan's eyes landed on the impostor as he spoke before Wei Shufeng could. Hello. The impostor nodded. Boss, did you know that someone was very disdainful of your performance just now? She even said that she could do it if she wanted to. She even said that your performance on the track was very average, and that you didn't live up to your reputation. Boss, as your diehard fan, I can't stand it. Boss, why don't you compete with her? Show her what it means to be a real mountain. Qi Xiaoyuan said. The impostor's eyes darted to Lin Yan. She didn't bother to hide the disdain in her eyes. Do I have to compete with anyone who asks me to? Lin Yan snorted coldly. Boss, you're right. But I think you should teach some people a lesson. Plus, isn't it a piece of cake for you to bully her? Qi Xiaoyuan said. Young Master Qi, if that's the case, I'm afraid that Madame Yeva will have to deal with challengers all year round. The female captain of the K1 team chimed in. Are you kidding me? How could a small team let Madame Yeva compete with her? Haha, she's just trying to create hype. Even if she competes on the track, Madame Yeva could crush her with her eyes closed. The captains chuckled at the same time. There are 2 more chapters to go. I'm begging for monthly votes. I'm begging for a recommendation ticket. Click on the red packet icon on the top right corner to receive a monthly vote. If you're lucky, you can even get a huge one. Chapter 501. Lin Yan, what are you trying to do? Have you had enough? Do you know who she is? Han Yishuan, who was standing next to the impostor, bellowed at Lin Yan. Sister, Madame Yeva is a legend in the racing world. Sister, you're just a member of a small team. This isn't appropriate. Lin Shuya sounded as though she was trying to dissuade her. No way. I can't stand people who look down on me. I have to get boss to race with her and teach her a lesson. Qi Xiaoyuan blurted out. Qi Xiaoyuan's eyes darted to Wei Shufeng. Fengzi, what do you mean? Boss is being looked down upon by this woman. Yet you won't let boss teach her a lesson? If we don't race with her, she will definitely say that Yeva is a legend, and that no one dares to race with her. I can't tolerate boss being humiliated like this. Wei Shufeng was speechless. Qi Xiaoyuan's words seemed to make sense. However, when he thought about it, he realized that it didn't make sense. After all, everyone knew who Yeva was. Why would she need to prove herself with a member of a small team? Isn't the banquet about to start? Let's go to the banquet first, Wei Shufeng said after a moment of silence. Sister, are you going home? I'll get someone to send you home. Lin Shuya spoke to Lin Yan in a gentle and caring manner. She was implying that Lin Yan didn't have the right to attend this banquet. Lin Yan grinned. No, I'm here to eat and drink. Why should I go back? 3 people invited me. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to leave. Yeah, she can't leave. As long as she doesn't respect Yeva, she can't leave. She has to race with my boss. Qi Xiaoyuan nodded. Pei Yutong glanced at Lin Yan, looking slightly awkward. Although Pei Yutong knew that Lin Yan was a good driver, she was talking to Yeva. Provoking Yeva and wanting to race with her was a joke in and of itself. However, Lin Yan was his sister-in-law and father, so Pei Yutong couldn't say that out loud. Are you going to the banquet? Han Yishuang glanced at Lin Yan expressionlessly, looking displeased. However, 3 men had indeed invited Lin Yan, so it wasn't convenient for them to chase her away. Yeah, we bought you a nice gift. How could I leave? Lin Yan grinned. The banquet was held in a manor near the arena. Yeva was the star of the show tonight. When they arrived at the manor, Lin Shuya, Han Yishuan, and the others cooperated with the imposter to change, while everyone else waited in the manor. Sister-in-law, why isn't the present here yet? Pei Yutong's eyes trailed to Lin Yan. Everyone's gifts had arrived, but Pei Yutong's had yet to appear. Don't worry. I'm on my way, Lin Yan told him. Daddy, I can't wait. Ha ha ha. Pei Yutong nodded vigorously. Qi Xiaoyuan pulled Lin Yan aside and whispered to her softly. Boss, you have to race against that imposter. Lin Yan grinned. He's a big shot. I can't do anything about it. Big shot. Qi Xiaoyuan was startled. Big shot. What big shot? She's pretending to be one. Don't worry. The show has just begun. Eating and drinking are more important than anything else. Lin Yan replied nonchalantly. Chapter 502. Before the banquet started, Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan went out to welcome an important person who had come from abroad. Before long, Han Yishuan and Lin Shuya brought a lady who was dressed like an upper-class lady into the mansion. F***CK, this lady. Isn't she the Hollywood actress Andrea? Are you serious? Isn't she the female lead of Hollywood's first racing tribute film? It's really her. The crowd erupted in excitement when they saw the lady. This lady was the hottest A-list actress in Hollywood. She's Yeva's diehard fan. That's not surprising. Yeva has many diehard fans. It's not surprising that Andrea is Yeva's fan. As the crowd discussed among themselves, Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan entered the manor with the woman. Let me introduce you. Lin Shuya smiled gently and glanced at the cold lady beside her. I'm sure you're all familiar with her. She's the Hollywood actress Andrea. She's also the president of Yeva's fan club. Yeva's fan club? Wei Shufeng was taken aback. Why hadn't he heard of such a fan club? Lin Shuya explained. It's just a small club. There are many of them. It's not just Yeva. Many people have such a fan club, including you. It's like a private fan club. After listening to Lin Shuya's explanation, Wei Shufeng finally understood why he hadn't heard of it. Hello everyone. Nice to meet you. Andrea greeted them in fluent Mandarin. Wei Shufeng wasn't a stranger to Andrea. She was Chinese-American and spoke fluent Mandarin. She was famous for her straightforward personality in Hollywood. Hello, Madam Andrea. Soon everyone stepped forward and introduced themselves. However, the woman did not seem to be interested in the self-introductions of the crowd. She even inadvertently revealed a look of impatience in her eyes. Shuya, may I know when boss will be here? Andrea glanced at Lin Shuya anxiously. Back when Andrea had been overseas, Yeva had yet to retire. Andrea had spent a lot of effort trying to find someone to invite Yeva to dinner. However, she had been rejected every single time. WZ had rejected her every time. This time, Lin Shuya contacted Andrea and informed her that she had invited Yeva to a private dinner in the country. Andrea was extremely grateful to Lin Shuya when he heard the news. He canceled all his work and booked the earliest flight to China. Sister Andrea, this is Wei Shufeng, Lin Shuya introduced. Hi, I watched your movie, Meeting One's Match. It was very good. Andrea smiled at Wei Shufeng. Thank you. Wei Shufeng nodded politely. This is... Andrea's eyes trailed to Lin Yan. Lin Pianro from Meeting One's Match? Hello, Madam Andrea. Lin Yan nodded. I didn't expect you to be Boss fans too, Andrea said. Madam Andrea, Miss Lin Yin isn't a fan. She is here to challenge us. One of the K1 racers smirked. Challenge the dojo? Hearing this, Andrea frowned. Haha, isn't that right? Let me tell you a joke. She thinks that Yeva isn't as good as her, so she wants to compete with her. Chapter 503. Lin Yin glanced at the mocking crowd helplessly. Those words had come from Qi Xiaoyuan. What did it have to do with her? However, she didn't care even if they thought that way. If she really couldn't do it, she would just race. Without waiting for Andrea to speak, the imposter in casual clothes slowly walked into the manor. Andrea's eyes lit up when she saw the girl. Andrea had never seen Yeva's face before, so she wasn't sure if the girl was her. Madam Yeva, let me introduce you. Lin Shuya smiled faintly as she pulled Andrea forward. What's wrong? The imposter asked. This is the Hollywood actress Madam Andrea. She is also your diehard fan. She has invited you to dinner many times, but your team has rejected her, Lin Shuya replied. Oh, hello. The girl extended her hand to Andrea. Boss. Andrea looked excited. This girl was really Yeva. Andrea immediately shook hands with the imposter. Shuya, thank you so much. If it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have been able to meet Boss. I didn't expect that you would be able to invite Boss to the country. Andrea turned to Lin Shuya. Lin Shuya chuckled softly. Sister Andrea, you're too kind. I like you a lot. Who knows, I might even enter Hollywood in the future. We might even have a chance to work together. Yeah, you definitely will. Andrea nodded. Suddenly, a commotion broke out outside the manor. Everyone turned to look at the commotion. This is a private venue. Please leave. The security guard yelled. I'm here to deliver something. Isn't this the address? Lin Yin grinned and glanced at Pei Yutong. Your gift is here. Hurry up and receive it. Let him in. Pei Yutong yelled. Before long, Pei Yutong stepped forward and two men carried a large, luxuriously wrapped wooden box into the room. Be careful. This is expensive. Pei Yutong looked wary. The two delivery men glanced at Pei Yutong strangely. After placing the box on the ground, he left. Miss Yeva, this is a gift from me and my friend. Please accept it. Pei Yutong glanced at Yeva with a smile. Okay, thank you, Mr. Pei. Just get someone to carry him away, the imposter said. Pei Yutong shook his head furiously. No. Open it first. I spent a lot of money and manpower to prepare this. Money is not important. The most important thing is time. I spent a lot of time preparing this gift. Oh yeah, Miss Lin Yin and I gave it to you, added Pei Yutong. Lin Yin was speechless. One had to admit that this brat was quite considerate. Since she couldn't dissuade him, she had no choice but to ask someone to open the box. Pei Yutong's exaggerated words had attracted everyone's attention. They wanted to see what kind of precious gift it was. However, when a large bell appeared before everyone's eyes, the entire place instantly fell silent. It was deathly silent. Godzi glanced at Pei Yutong with an awkward expression on his face. Although he knew that Pei Yutong wasn't very intelligent, he shouldn't have chosen a large bell as a gift, right? Chapter 504. At this moment, the villa was deathly silent. There was not the slightest sound. Everyone's eyes were on the clock and Pei Yutong. They had never heard of anyone giving a clock as a gift. You're awesome, brother. Qi Xiaoyuan snapped back to his senses and gave Pei Yutong a thumbs up. Pei Yutong's hair stood on end as he stared at the clock. His mind went blank. Why was it a clock? Who had given a clock as a gift? Did you give it to the wrong person? Pei Yutong glanced at Lin Yin with uncertainty. Lin Yin shook her head and replied, No, this is it. Then, why is it a clock? Didn't you say that it would be heavy and heavy? Why did it have to be big? Pei Yutong shuddered. Lin Yin frowned. Isn't it heavy? Pei Yutong was speechless. Lin Yin asked, Isn't it heavy? Pei Yutong was speechless. Lin Yin asked, "Isn't this big?" Pei Yutong was speechless. "Besides, it's very artistic." Lin Yin grinned at him. "Sister-in-law, are you kidding me?" Pei Yutong wanted to cry. It was indeed heavy, but it was a clock. Wasn't it the same as sending someone to their funeral? "Mr. Pei, what do you mean?" Han Yishuan's expression hardened. Qi Xiaoyuan had given them a luxurious bag, but it had been an imitation. They hadn't said anything, so they had assumed that Qi Xiaoyuan had been cheated. However, Pei Yutong had given them a clock. What was it? Ahem. Pei Yutong coughed to hide his awkwardness. "Everyone, please don't judge this gift by the standards of the world. This clock actually has a long history. It has a lot of historical value. This weight. This material. This weight. I'm sorry, I can't make it up anymore." Pei Yutong wanted to bang his head against the wall to end this. "This clock is my gift to Madame Yeva," Lin Yin said with a grin. Everyone's eyes darted from Pei Yutong to Lin Yin. Pei Yutong turned around instantly and gazed at Lin Yin, feeling touched. As expected of his biological father, he actually took the blame for him like this. However, on second thought, there was no need to carry it. She was the one who had bought that clock. "Sister, how could you do this? Even if you hate me, you shouldn't treat our guest this way." Lin Shia glanced at Lin Yin looking aggrieved. However, Lin Shia's eyes flashed with a smile. Lin Yin had dug her own grave. She had provoked Yeva, and even given her a clock. Given Yeva's influence, Lin Yin was afraid that she would never have a chance to make a name for herself. She was the one who had sealed herself. As for him, as the inviter, he only needed to be firm in his stance. Han Yishuan's eyes gleamed coldly. "Lin Yin, do you have a death wish?" "Wow, you're such a vicious woman." Qi Xiaoyuan pointed at Lin Yin and bellowed. "Boss rejected your challenge, yet you're here to send him off? If you have the guts, get on the track. Whoever loses will eat this clock." "I think so." Andrea glared at Lin Yin coldly. "You have to think twice before provoking Yeva. I can give you a chance, but if you lose, you will have to eat the clock." Wei Shufeng frowned. Although he was annoyed by Lin Yin, these people would definitely make her eat the clock if she really got on the track. "She's not worthy. Tell her to scram." Wei Shufeng glanced at Lin Yin as he spoke. Lin Yin didn't seem to mind. "Eat the clock? That's not a problem." End of update. Moi monthly ticket drawing event continues. Oh. Chapter 505. Eat the clock. Pei Yutong winked at Lin Yin when he heard her. Pei Yutong was well aware of Lin Yan's racing skills, and he had faith in her. However, that was only for ordinary teams. Who was Lin Yin provoking now? Who did she think she was? Yeva. She was known as the racetrack's Grim Reaper, and the legendary female racer, who held the fastest track record. Normally, people like them wouldn't even have the right to meet Yeva. However, Lin Yin had challenged such a legendary racer, and even promised that the loser would eat the clock. If Pei Yutong hadn't known Lin Yin well, he would have assumed that Lin Yin had done this. She had given the clock to the loser, and said that the loser would have to eat the clock. That was terrifying. Pei Yutong pulled Lin Yin aside before she could retort. "Daddy, what are you doing?" Pei Yutong stared at Lin Yin in horror. Pei Yutong had never imagined that Lin Yin would cause so much trouble at the banquet. Most importantly, there was no way Lin Yin could win. Would she really eat the clock that he had given her? Lin Yin wanted to say something, but Pei Yutong interrupted her. "Sister-in-law, are you trying to make use of this opportunity to create hype? Won't that just create a bad reputation?" Lin Yin was speechless. Actually, Lin Yin could understand Pei Yutong's reasoning. If she were in Pei Yutong's shoes, she would probably think the same way as him. "Yeah, I just want to create hype." Lin Yin chuckled softly at Pei Yutong. "Huh?" Pei Yutong was dumbfounded. Anything could be created? How about it? "If you lose, you have to eat the clock." Andrea's eyes trailed to Lin Yin as she spoke impatiently. "Madam Andrea, didn't I say that I can do it?" Lin Yin grinned and nodded. "Actually, I didn't mean to provoke you. I just think that I'm good at racing." Perhaps I can beat the legendary racetrack's Grim Reaper. The female captain of K1 stared at Lin Yan and sneered coldly. This is the funniest joke I've heard this year. You're just a member of a low-level team. Who gave you the confidence to think that you're good at racing? It's good to be confident, but being overly confident is ignorance. Haha. What do you mean by ignorant? This woman is from the entertainment industry. You might not know this, but she relied on scandals to gain popularity. Who would have thought that she would resort to scamming Madame Yeva instead of scandals? She isn't a low-level scammer. Yeah, I've heard that this woman relies on hype to make a living. Lin Yan merely smiled at them. Besides, they were right. In the early days, she had relied on scandals to create hype. Although it wasn't her intention, it was the truth. If you lose, you have to eat the clock. If Boss Yeva loses, I will eat the clock. Andrea eyed Lin Yan with a stoic expression. Madam Andrea, this isn't a good idea. Wei Shufeng frowned as he glanced at Andrea. Lin Yan had indeed gone overboard. He had nothing to say about that. However, they could have just chased her away. There was no need to blow things up. Chapter 506. In Wei Shufeng's opinion, Lin Yan was bound to lose. She had agreed to eat the bell, so even if she lost, she deserved to eat the bell. However, if she ate the bell, even if she didn't die, she would at least lose a layer of skin. Even though he didn't have a good impression of Lin Yan had purposely imitated Yeva. Perhaps she had done it to attract his attention. After all, he had worked with Lin Yan for a long time. Hence, Wei Shufeng didn't want her to suffer the consequences of her actions. Hey little Fengzi, you're not a fake fan, are you? Before Wei Shufeng could say anything else, Qi Xiaoyuan suddenly stepped forward. He walked over to Wei Shufeng and said coldly, "Someone provoked boss. Yet you are still protecting her? How can you spoil her? Boss should teach her a lesson and make her pay for her arrogance and ignorance. In my opinion, eating the bell is a light punishment. She should eat it. Forget it. It's disgusting. I can't bring myself to say it." Wei Shufeng glanced at Qi Xiaoyuan curiously. Lin Yan had appeared at this event because Qi Xiaoyuan had invited her. Besides, Han Yishuan had chased Lin Yan away, and Qi Xiaoyuan had fallen out with her just to stand up for her. However, judging from the current situation, Qi Xiaoyuan had turned hostile quickly. He had protected Lin Yan before, but now he wanted her dead. What was going on in the head of such a person? The Qi Xiaoyuan that he knew wasn't a two-faced person. Qi Xiaoyuan, didn't you support Lin Yan? Wei Shufeng asked curiously. Qi Xiaoyuan shook his head furiously. That was before, and this is now. Lin Yan didn't provoke boss. How could I forgive her now that she has done so? These are two different matters. You on the other hand are a fence-sitter. You're not loyal to boss at all. You even acknowledge boss. Forget it. Anyway, you're a fake fan. Wei Shufeng couldn't be bothered to argue with Qi Xiaoyuan. He turned to Lin Yan and said coldly, "Lin Yan, apologize to boss and everyone else now. Then please leave. We can pretend that nothing happened today. We can forget about eating the bell. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance." "No, I don't agree. Whoever offends boss has to pay the price," Qi Xiaoyuan said anxiously. That's right. Young Master Qi's words make a lot of sense. If you make a mistake, you should bear the consequences yourself. It's not something that can be resolved with just an apology. She was the one who agreed to eat the clock if she lost. No one forced her. Doesn't she want to create hype? Let her. As long as she eats the clock if she loses, we can accept it. The female captain of K1's third team laughed coldly. Lin Yan, aren't you going to apologize? Wei Shufeng ignored them as he bellowed at Lin Yan. Could it be that this woman was willing to sacrifice her own life for the sake of hype? Can we start now? Lin Yan grinned. Wei Shufeng glared at Lin Yan. You. Wei Shufeng gritted his teeth. If she wanted to court death, he couldn't stop her. She was pitiful, but she was detestable. Madam Yeva, I'm very sorry. This is my sister. My sister has always misunderstood us. She knew that we invited you, so she deliberately provoked us. I'm really sorry. Madam Yeva, you don't have to pay any attention to her. I'll take responsibility for my sister's mistakes. Lin Shuya looked at the girl aggrievedly. Chapter 507. Before the impostor could say anything, Andrea patted her shoulder gently and said, Sister Shuya, you don't have to blame yourself. We were there the whole time, so we know that this has nothing to do with you. As your older sister, how could you deliberately pick a fight with your younger sister? You're not fit to be called an older sister. Shuya, you're too kind. I've already told you how evil Lin Yin is. Why are you still protecting her at a time like this? Han Yishuan asked with a frown. Andrea nodded and replied, Yes, Sister Shuya. You don't have to bear the consequences for her mistakes. You're really kind, but I've seen such an evil sister before. Her personality is completely twisted. The kinder you are, the more unscrupulous she becomes. Today she didn't just offend you. Boss Yeva also offended her. She has to pay the price. But, Sister Shuya, Lin Shuya looked pained. Don't worry. She won't really eat the clock. However, she still has to eat it. You don't have to interfere in this matter, replied Andrea. Shuya, Madam Andrea is right. Lin Yin doesn't want to let you off because you're kind and soft-hearted. Listen to Madam Andrea and don't interfere. Han Yishuan shook his head at Lin Shuya. Although Lin Shuya appeared to be in agony, a cold smile surfaced in her eyes. Lin Shuya glanced at Lin Yin with a conflicted expression. Sister, I'm begging you. Please apologize to Madam Yeva and leave. Can you do that? If you can't, I will bear the responsibility. Lin Shuya chuckled to herself. She wanted to make things difficult for everyone. Since Lin Yin wanted to cause trouble, she shouldn't back down. She wanted to see how Lin Yin would eat the clock after losing the competition. To Lin Shuya's surprise, Lin Yin nodded in agreement after a moment of silence. Alright, you eat the clock. I'll leave now. Lin Yin grinned at Lin Shuya. Lin Shuya was taken aback when she heard Lin Yin. Andrea suddenly stepped forward and glared at Lin Yin. I have never seen a sister as vicious as you. You don't deserve to be called a sister. You have to compete today. If you don't, you can eat your own clock. Sigh, Lin Yin sighed helplessly. My hair has turned white. Can I do it now? Qi Xiaoyuan hurried to the impostor's side and looked at Andrea and the impostor. Boss, go and teach this evil woman a lesson. She was just a member of a small beginner team. She was just a bum in a small team, and she heard that it was her family's small team. If she wasn't from her family, she wouldn't even have the qualifications to be a member of a small team. Boss, you can easily win against such a person, even with your eyes closed. Is that so? Finally, the impostor reacted. Yes, Miss Yeva. It's grandfather's team. However, they haven't had any good results. They might be disbanded soon. Lin Shuya replied softly. I got it. The impostor nodded and glanced at Lin Yin coldly. Initially, I could have treated you like air. But now I'm curious. Can your stomach digest the clock? Chapter 508. Lin Yin grinned and glanced at the impostor. My stomach can't take it, but my teeth are fine. It won't be a problem. Let's go to the track, the impostor replied. At the impostor's command, everyone followed behind her and walked towards the arena. Wei Shifeng glared fiercely at Lin Yin. He couldn't understand what this woman was trying to do. Did she really want to eat the clock that he had given her? Lin Yin wasn't trying to make things difficult for anyone. She was trying to make things difficult for herself. However, Wei Shifeng wouldn't say anything now. No matter what, this woman would have to suffer the consequences of her own actions. Godzi walked over to Lin Yin. Miss Lin Yin, what are you doing? Godzi and Mumu couldn't understand Lin Yan's actions at the dinner. They had acknowledged Lin Yan's abilities. To them, she was considered an expert. However, she was the racetrack's Grim Reaper Yeva. The only defeat she had suffered in her life had been at the Pinnacle racetrack. What was Lin Yin thinking? How could she say that she would eat the clock if she lost? Lin Yin glanced at Godzi and grinned. Perhaps I might be able to beat her. Godzi was speechless. Beat Yeva? Mumu looked surprised. Miss Lin Yan, let me tell you this. Unless this Yeva is a fake, you will never win. It's not that your racing skills aren't good. It's just that Yeva is too good. Lin Yan grinned. Who knows? She might be a fake. We have to hope for a miracle. I don't want to eat the clock. Soon, everyone arrived at the track. The cars that had been used for the competition were still there. The imposter entered the race, and entered her exclusive silver racing car. Lin Yan stepped onto the track, and picked a random car as the crowd watched on in disdain. Lin Shuya's smile widened as she watched Lin Yan enter the car. This elder sister of hers was really stupid. She hadn't even had the chance to cause trouble for her. Yet she had come knocking on her door. Was she trying to force her to her death? Shuya, you don't have to care about her. Just let her fend for herself, Han Yishuan said. But she's still my sister, Lin Shuya said softly. Seeing this, Han Yishuan sighed. You're just too kind. Before Han Yishuan could say anything else, a series of roars came from the track. Haha. I'm really curious what kind of expression that woman will have when she eats the clock. This kind of person deserves whatever he eats. Of all people to provoke, you chose to provoke Yeva. You have never died before. Pei Yutong looked conflicted. How should he salvage the situation after Lin Yan lost? Should I call Big Brother? No, if Big Brother knew that he was the one who brought sister-in-law here, his legs would be broken. But if he didn't tell Big Brother, what would happen if sister-in-law was forced to eat the clock? If he really ate it, it wouldn't be as simple as a broken leg, right? At the signal, the silver car and Lin Yan's red car dashed out of the starting point. As the match began, no one said a word. They were all focused on the match between the lion and the dog. The imposter's silver car was extremely fast, and it overtook Lin Yan's red car in no time. However, just as the silver car overtook the silver car, the red car swerved to the left and stopped right in front of the silver car. Update has ended. Begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 509. Lin Yan, who was seated in the red car, glanced at the rearview mirror from the corner of her eyes. The corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. She had to admit that the imposter was indeed capable. She was almost as good as the ZH1 team. If she had been an ordinary racer, it would have been impossible for her to beat the imposter. It was no wonder that the imposter was so confident, especially after she had heard Lin Shuya say that she was just a member of a small team. She had chosen to race with her without hesitation. Although Lin Yan was indeed a member of a small team, she was also the racetrack's Grim Reaper. Whoosh! The imposter's silver car tried to overtake Lin Yan, but she was blocked by Lin Yan. She didn't give the imposter any chance to overtake her. The spectators, who had been watching the show, had a different expression on their faces. If the imposter had been slower, it would have been understandable if Lin Yan's red car had overtaken her. However, Lin Yan's car was still blocking the imposter's path, and the gap between them was widening. In Lin Yan's opinion, this competition was a complete one-sided slaughter. The imposter was good, but that was only relative. In fact, she couldn't even be compared to K1, which was the best team in the country. She wouldn't stand a chance against the real Yeva. Qi Xiaoyuan glanced at Wei Shufeng and Andrea before he yelled. What's going on? Boss's car is being overtaken by Lin Yan. How dare she block Boss's path? What right does she have? Many people frowned when they heard Qi Xiaoyuan's words. What's going on? Andrea stared at the two cars that were getting further and further away from each other. The red car was driven by Lin Yan, while the silver car was driven by the imposter. Everyone had assumed that Yeva would win this race in a landslide. However, the situation on the track was far from what they had expected. The racetrack's Grim Reaper, Yeva, had not only failed to crush her opponent with ease, but she had also fallen into a disadvantageous position. How could this be? I can't believe that Lin Yan is so powerful. She's even stronger than Boss. Qi Xiaoyuan continued to shout when he saw no reaction from the crowd. Yeah. Suddenly, Pei Yutong strode over and glanced at Qi Xiaoyuan. Sister Yan is so powerful that even Yeva can't outrun her. The corners of Qi Xiaoyuan's mouth twitched. Pei Yutong didn't understand what he meant at all. How is this possible? Wei Shufeng's eyes widened in disbelief as he watched the red car race down the track. Even if Lin Yan was strong, she wouldn't be able to outrun his boss. They weren't on the same level. How could an ant defeat a tiger? Did Madame Yeva go easy on him? Lin Shuya furrowed her brows. Although she didn't know much about racing, she had crammed a lot of knowledge about racing recently. Hence, she was able to understand what was going on. Chapter 510. Han Yishuan pondered for a moment before he replied. Going easy on her? That seems possible. After all, given Madame Yeva's status, how could she compete with someone like Lin Yan? Yeah, boss must have gone easy on her. Boss wouldn't lose. Qi Xiaoyuan nodded and grinned. Boss is so noble. She didn't want to bully a nobody like Lin Yan. She might even lose the race and eat the clock. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed again. Qi Xiaoyuan's words were illogical. Yeva and Lin Yan weren't having a friendly competition. Lin Yan had provoked her first, and Yeva had wanted to teach her a lesson. How could this be considered going easy on her? Moreover, if they lost this match, they would have to eat the bell. Who would be so foolish as to purposely lose the match and eat the bell when they clearly had the strength to crush their opponent? Such a thing would never happen. Could it be because of boss's injury? Wei Shufeng asked uncertainly. Everyone knew the reason why Yeva had retired temporarily. It was because of her injuries. Besides, Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan had said that Yeva had traveled thousands of miles to the country, and that her injury had worsened. That was why she hadn't competed with K1 today. Given Lin Yan's team, even if boss's injury worsened, he would still be able to beat Lin Yan with his eyes closed. Don't they say that a skinny camel is still bigger than a horse? No, Lin Yan isn't even a horse. A skinny camel is still bigger than an ant. Qi Xiaoyuan quipped. Before anyone could say anything, Qi Xiaoyuan said again. No. I was wrong. If boss lost the competition, it must be because of a relapse of his injury, or some other reason. If boss lost, it must be because of all sorts of unexpected circumstances. Pei Yutong glanced at Qi Xiaoyuan awkwardly. Brother. Are you a high-level hater? Ah. Qi Xiaoyuan turned around and glared at Pei Yutong. What are you talking about? Who's a high-level hater? I'm a true fan. A true fan. Pei Yutong replied thoughtfully. It's scary when a fan turns into a hater. Boss wouldn't lose to a small team even if he's injured. Finally, Andrea, who had been silent all this while, spoke with a frown. Godzi and Mumu glanced at each other. They knew Lin Yan's skills very well. Even if Lin Yan's skills were comparable to K1's team, and were comparable to the old monsters in the country, she wouldn't be able to defeat Yeva, who was suffering from an old injury. Hence, both Mumu and Godzi were puzzled by the current situation on the track. They didn't know why. I don't care. There's no way boss will lose, unless that person isn't boss, and is an imposter. Qi Xiaoyuan shouted. The situation on the track was getting clearer. Lin Yan's car had already reached the finish line. However, it didn't continue forward. Instead, it stopped at the finish line. Everyone watched as Lin Yan, who was dressed casually, opened the car door and walked around the finish line. She seemed to be inspecting the car. Everyone looked at Lin Yan strangely. Chapter 511. Lin Yan was blatantly humiliating Yeva. Instead of entering the finish line, she had gotten out of the car to check on her condition. At this point, what else was there to check? All she had to do was step on the accelerator and Lin Yan would enter the finish line. She would win the race. When the imposter's silver car caught up with her, Lin Yan slowly opened the door and got into the driver's seat. She stepped on the accelerator gently and crossed the finish line. The moment the red car crossed the finish line, there was no other sound apart from the roars of the two cars. Wei Shufeng stared at the two cars in a daze. His boss, the racetrack's Grim Reaper, had lost to Lin Yan. How could such a thing happen? However, seeing was believing. How could he explain what had happened on the track? Lin Yin glanced at the silver car before she got out of the car and returned to the race venue. Sister Yin, wow. How did you do it? How did you beat the racetrack's Grim Reaper? Yeva, am I dreaming? That's unbelievable. Pei Yutong's face lit up with excitement when he saw Lin Yin. Lin Yin grinned and replied, yeah, I was just racing casually. I didn't expect to beat the legendary racetrack's Grim Reaper. It seems like I'm a one-in-a-million genius racer. There's no way you can beat my boss unless the one below is fake. Qi Xiaoyuan glanced at Lin Yin suddenly. The corners of Lin Yan's mouth curled up into a smile. Actually, it's simple. There are 2 reasons. What are they? Asked Pei Yutong. Firstly, I did beat the racetrack's Grim Reaper. I'm better than her and I'm a genius, replied Lin Yin. Secondly, asked Qi Xiaoyuan. Secondly, Lin Yin shrugged. The one below is fake. Either I'm better than Yeva, or I beat the fake Yeva. Is there a third explanation? Fake. After a brief moment of astonishment, everyone seemed to agree with Lin Yan's second reason. It would be a joke to claim that this woman was better than the racetrack's Grim Reaper. However, Yeva had indeed lost the competition. This was an indisputable fact. In that case, she had to be an imposter. Lin Shuya, what happened? Suddenly, Wei Shufeng's eyes landed on Lin Shuya. No, it's not like that. She is indeed Madame Yeva. Please listen to me. Lin Shuya frowned. Lin Yin nodded and replied, don't worry. Please give her a chance to explain herself. Qi Xiaoyuan. Pei Yutong. A cold glint flashed across Lin Shuya's eyes. Could Yeva really be an imposter? Otherwise, how could he have lost to Lin Yin? However, she quickly regained her composure. Even if it was a fake, there was still a way to remedy it. As long as the imposter refused to admit it, and said that it was because of a relapse of an old injury, Lin Yin turned to the silver car and shouted, Madam Yeva, we have already called the police. We suspect that you're not Yeva. Please explain yourself. The moment Lin Yin spoke, the silver car revved its engine and sped out of the venue in the blink of an eye. Chapter 512. Lin Shuya's face fell when she saw this. Lin Yin grinned from ear to ear. How could Lin Yin not know what was on Lin Shuya's mind? Even if she was a fake, as long as Lin Shuya sneaked up to the imposter and made her deny it, she would be able to get away with it. Hence, she decided to tell the police that she had called the police. Sure enough, when the imposter heard this, she drove away from the venue. Now that the imposter had escaped, the truth was revealed. If the real Yeva had lost the competition because of her old injury, how could she have escaped with the car? As the imposter drove the silver racing car away, the crowd fell silent once more. That can't be. Qi Xiaoyuan had a look of disbelief on his face as he said in shock. Boss actually drove the car and ran away. Could it be that she's really an imposter? If she didn't flee, she might have lost the race due to other reasons. For example, her old injury might have worsened and caused her to lose. However, since she ran away, she must be an imposter. Pei Yutong analyzed the situation. Yeah, I thought it was strange. Given the racetrack's Grim Reaper's skills, even if her old injury had worsened during the race, she wouldn't have lost to Miss Lin Yin. So she was an imposter, Mumu muttered softly. Mumu glanced at Lin Yin and smiled awkwardly. Miss Lin Yin, I hope you don't blame me for saying this. After all, if she was the real Yeva, Miss Lin Yin wouldn't have stood a chance. It's fine. Lin Yin grinned. Let's call the police first. We'll talk when we get back to the manor. Andrea glanced at Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan, who were standing beside him. It was late at night when they returned to the manor. The silver racing car had been found, but the imposter was nowhere to be found. No one knew where it had gone. Everyone was gathered in the hall. Wei Shufeng stared coldly at Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan. Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan had a certain status in the country. Hence, no one doubted that Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan had managed to invite the racetrack's Grim Reaper. Who would have thought that Yeva was an imposter? Since I'm willing to bet, I'm willing to lose. I'm sorry. Andrea's eyes trailed to Lin Yan. I said that if you win, I will eat the clock. After saying that, Andrea strode towards the clock without hesitation. Lin Yan tugged on Andrea's arm. Andrea glanced at Lin Yan in confusion. Miss Andrea, you might be mistaken. The premise of this bet is that the person is really Yeva. Unfortunately, she is an imposter. Hence this bet is invalid. Lin Yan grinned. Andrea was startled for a moment before he understood what Lin Yan meant. Lin Yan was giving her a way out. Thank you. Andrea nodded gratefully at Lin Yan. I knew it. There's something wrong with Yeva. Otherwise, how could she have lost to such a person? The female captain of the K1 team exclaimed. Indeed. She can't even outrun a beginner. How could she be the real Yeva? Let's not talk about the top teams. Any rookie racer would be able to beat this woman easily, the female captain of the K1 team said with a smile. Lin Yan grinned at her. Why don't you give it a try? After all, no one has eaten the clock yet. End of update, Wax. Chapter 513. Compete with you? The female captain of the K1 team glanced at Lin Yan and sneered coldly. I don't think that's necessary. Are you afraid? Lin Yan grinned at her. It's fine if that's what you think. The female captain replied nonchalantly. Not every Tom, Dick, or Harry can compete with me. If you aren't convinced, you can promote the He family team and let them compete with K1. However, I'm afraid you won't get the chance to do so in this lifetime. Lin Yan grinned. Isn't it just a matter of time before the He family team defeats K1? Everyone turned to look at Lin Yan with a strange expression on their faces. Was there something wrong with this woman's brain? What kind of team was the He family team? What kind of racing team was the K1 team? Was there anything that could be compared between the two? A beginner racing team didn't even have the right to compete with any of the K1 teams, let alone beat the K1 teams on the track. Even teams like ZH1 and WW, who were aware of Lin Yan's abilities, couldn't believe what she had just said. Andrea glanced at Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan and hissed coldly. The two of you better give everyone a reasonable explanation. Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan exchanged glances when they heard Andrea's words. Lin Shuya was cursing inwardly. That imposter had caused her so much trouble. If she had been stronger, she would have been able to deal with it. She would have been able to play the role of the racetrack's Grim Reaper in Legend. It was a pity that she had escaped. However, Lin Shuya was at a disadvantage now. If news of this got out, it would be even more difficult for her to get the role. Andrea, whom she had tried to recruit, would definitely hate her now. Lin Shuya rolled her eyes as she tried to come up with a plan. No matter what, she couldn't be implicated in this matter. Lin Shuya, are you going to remain silent forever? I accepted your invitation and came all the way here just to see an imposter. Andrea's gaze grew sharper and sharper. In front of the racetrack's Grim Reaper, Andrea didn't put on any airs. She behaved like a little fangirl. However, when he found out that the woman was an imposter, Andrea's aura instantly exploded. Lin Shuya's gaze landed on Andrea. Just as she was about to say something, a security guard walked over and whispered something into her ear. Lin Shuya's expression changed when she heard this. Everyone, Sister Andrea, and Su Feng, I think everything that happened was just a misunderstanding, Lin Shuya said hurriedly. Misunderstanding? Everyone was stunned by Lin Shuya's words. That imposter first lost to an ordinary member of a beginner racing team, then drove away. How could there be a misunderstanding? Lin Shuya, you'd better explain yourself. What do you mean by a misunderstanding? Andrea glared at Lin Shuya as she spoke. Chapter 514. Lin Shuya nodded slightly and explained to Andrea. I don't know the truth. However, I can tell you that Madame Yeva has returned. Oh, Andrea was startled. She had returned. Hadn't she already escaped? Why would she return? Andrea wasn't the only one who was curious. Wei Shufeng and the other captains were puzzled as well. If she was really an imposter, She would have fled long ago. Why would she return? Wouldn't she be walking right into a trap? No swindler would be that stupid, however. Just as Lin Shuya had said, there was no point in relying on their wild guesses. The woman had returned just in time to confront her. They wanted to know what she was up to. Before Lin Shuya could say anything, the girl in the silver uniform strode into the manor. She looked pale and weak. How dare you come back? Andrea's eyes gleamed coldly as she studied the girl. How dare this liar impersonate their boss? She must be tired of living, and had a death wish. Lin Yan's eyes trailed to the girl as she sauntered over. The others weren't the only ones curious. Even Lin Yan was taken aback. How could this imposter be so confident? She had returned as though nothing had happened. Everyone, I'm sorry. Something happened, so I couldn't inform you in advance. The girl glanced at the crowd as she spoke. Imposter, what else do you have to explain? Andrea glared at the girl coldly. The girl was startled when she heard that. There was an inexplicable look in her eyes. Lin Yan couldn't help but applaud the girl. She had put on a good show. With such acting skills, why did she have to be a liar? She could even be an actress. Are you still trying to deny it? Andrea didn't seem to be convinced. Sister Andrea, don't be anxious. I think there might be a misunderstanding. Why don't you let her explain herself? If she can produce evidence to prove her identity, everything will be fine. If she can't, we will deal with it as we see fit. Lin Shuya said softly as she looked at Andrea. All right, then we'll give her a chance to prove herself, Andrea said coldly. Then let her tell us what happened just now. Madam Yeva, I'm very sorry. Please explain to us what happened just now. Why did you lose to an amateur racer? Why did you drive away after hearing the police? Asked Godzi. Hearing this, the girl's expression was extremely calm, and she calmly said, I don't think I need to explain such things to you at all. As soon as the imposter finished speaking, Andrea was about to get angry, but the imposter continued. Forget it. Since you want to know, I can tell you. Speak. We are listening, Wei Shufeng said. On the track just now, my old injury acted up. Not only that, but the car was also in a semi-malfunctioning state. When I finally drove the car to the finish line, the brakes were completely out of order, and I lost control of the direction. That's why the car sped off the track. After I regained control of the car, I couldn't bear the pain anymore, so I took a taxi to the nearby hospital, the imposter explained calmly as she glanced at the crowd. Chapter 515. Is my explanation clear enough? The imposter asked when everyone fell silent. Pei Yutong stared at the imposter in disbelief. Big sister, do you take us for fools? Even if you want to quibble, you should at least find a better excuse. Think about it carefully and organize your words. Be logical and logical. For the first time, Pei Yutong felt as though his intelligence had been insulted. That's it. Qi Xiaoyuan stared at the imposter in bewilderment. Who are you trying to fool? The car malfunctioned? Why didn't you die from a car accident? Why did you go to the hospital to check on your undeveloped brain? Lin Yan was speechless. She had to admit that Qi Xiaoyuan's sharp tongue had reached the pinnacle. Why? Do you find it hard to believe? That's why I said that I don't need to explain anything to you. The imposter glanced at everyone and spoke nonchalantly. Lin Yan stared at the imposter in confusion. This woman had imitated her tone and expression when she had been in the WZ team. She was really good at imitating her. If she was the one who was suspected of her true identity, her reaction would be the same as this woman's current state. She would have said that it had nothing to do with you whether I'm Yeva or not. Why should I explain myself to you? The imposter had finally managed to imitate the essence of her words. Oh yeah, the imposter added. If you don't believe me, you can check the silver car that I was driving earlier. You can also go to the nearest hospital to check if I'm telling the truth. Okay, Andrea nodded. Since that's your request, we will fulfill it. I'll do it, Lin Shuya replied hastily. There's no need. Andrea glanced at Lin Shuya. Let's do this together. Lin Yin glanced at Andrea. This Hollywood actress was smart. Once she suspected something, She wouldn't be fooled so easily. Andrea knew that Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan had invited this man over. How could they let the two of them handle such crucial evidence? Who knew if they were in cahoots with the imposter? All right, you guys go ahead and investigate, but I'm going to rest. The imposter said. Don't worry about me escaping. If things were really as you think, I wouldn't have come back. I will stay. Before the truth is revealed, I will be in charge of watching over Madame Yeva, said Mumu. Half an hour later, they called in the professionals for an inspection. However, the results of the examination were shocking. The car did have a huge hidden danger. The brake system was malfunctioning, the steering system was malfunctioning, and the tire pressure was too high. Could it really be a misunderstanding? If that woman is really Yeva, it's already a miracle that she managed to reach the finish line despite the malfunctioning brakes and steering system. How skilled must she be to achieve that? There's nothing to be said about losing to a junior racer, the female captain of the K1 team said. To the hospital. Andrea frowned. Soon, they arrived at the hospital that the imposter mentioned, found the doctor who was treating the imposter, and retrieved the surveillance footage. According to the time, the woman did not lie. She did come to the hospital as soon as possible. Chapter 516. According to the surveillance footage, the imposter had been in a weak state when she had entered the hospital. Her leg had been injured. Moreover, the doctor also told him the result of the diagnosis. It was indeed a relapse of the leg injury. How? How is that possible? Qi Xiaoyuan was dumbfounded, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. If Qi Xiaoyuan hadn't known that the real Yeva was Lin Yan, he would have thought that this was a misunderstanding. However, this shouldn't have happened. How could there be such a coincidence? The imposter had said that the brakes and steering had failed. They had checked the car carefully, and it had been as she had said. The imposter had said that her injury had relapsed, and she had come to the hospital. The results were exactly as she had said. What was going on? Everyone glanced at each other in confusion. Could this really be a misunderstanding? Coincidentally, Yeva's injury had relapsed during the race with Lin Yan. The brakes and steering had failed, and the car had sped out of control. After the car had stabilized, Yeva hadn't returned to the villa because of the pain. Instead, she had gone to the hospital. Furthermore, she had said that she had rejected the K1 race because she was tired and her injury had relapsed. Everything made sense now. Could we have misunderstood Madame Yeva? One of the K1 captains asked, looking puzzled. Indeed. We have come to investigate, and everything is the same. This makes sense. If Yeva is the real Yeva, why would she come back? Wouldn't she be courting death? At this moment, even Andrea was a little shaken. Why are you wasting so much time? Isn't it easy to find out who she is? Qi Xiaoyuan blurted out suddenly. Everyone's eyes darted to Qi Xiaoyuan. Although we haven't seen Yeva in person, someone must have seen her. For example, the guru Lang Mang, the butcher guru, etc. Get her to call one of her disciples and video call them. Qi Xiaoyuan exclaimed excitedly. Yes, yes, yes. That's right. Pei Yutong nodded vigorously. He's right. If she is the real Yeva, it would be easy. A video call would be the most reliable method. Even if we haven't seen her, we should have seen Lang Mang and Butcher. Yes, this is indeed a good idea. Andrea nodded in agreement after thinking for a while. Lin Shuya's heart sank. Who knew if that woman was the real Yeva or an imposter? If she was the real Yeva, it would be a happy ending. However, if she was a fake, she would be exposed in an instant. I think that this idea is feasible. Wei Shifeng nodded in agreement. After confirming the method of distinguishing the real from the fake, everyone returned to the manor. Boss, you don't object to this idea, do you? When no one was around, Qi Xiaoyuan glanced at Lin Yan. Whatever, replied Lin Yan nonchalantly. That imposter was not a simple person. If he didn't use this method, he would have to waste some time to expose her identity. Hehe. I want to see how that imposter is going to pretend. Qi Xiaoyuan sneered. A moment later, The imposter was invited out of the hall. Have you investigated thoroughly? The imposter's expression did not change. Just like you said, there is no problem. However, we are still worried. So please video call one of your disciples, replied Wei Shifeng. Update is over. Sister Yan's disciple is about to appear and slap her in the face. Chapter 517. The imposter scanned the crowd before she replied coldly. I don't think there's a need for that. There's a need for that. Hearing this, Andrea said expressionlessly. This is the most direct way to prove your identity. If you think this will disturb the gods, you can also show me your racing license. I don't think there's a need for that, the girl replied softly. Do you think we are fools? Qi Xiaoyuan glanced at the imposter. You can't even video call one of your apprentices. You can't even show us your driving license. How are you going to prove your identity? Lin Xia frowned. If this was the case, the girl before her was most likely an imposter. She couldn't possibly be the real Yeva. The girl sat on the sofa. She didn't look like she was in any mood. In fact, there wasn't even the slightest fluctuation in her emotions. Before anyone could speak, the girl chuckled. Sun Xuan, what do you think? Sun Xuan? Wei Shifeng and Qi Xiaoyuan exchanged a glance. They knew who Sun Xuan was. He was one of Yeva's apprentices, and had been famous during the international competition. Of course, replied Andrea. The girl whipped out her phone as everyone watched. A moment later, a young man's face appeared in the girl's video call. Master, why are you looking for me so late at night? The man seemed to have just taken a shower, as he was draped in a towel. Xuan, where are you? Asked the girl with a grin. I just got off the plane. I have some matters to attend to in China, explained the man. What a coincidence. You're in China too. Do you want to come over for a gathering? Quipped the imposter. The man was taken aback. Master, are you in China too? I'm currently in the capital city. What's your address? I'll send it to you. After saying that, the imposter hung up the phone. At that moment, everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at the video that was cut off. They recognized the man's face. He was one of Yeva's apprentices, Sun Xuan. There was no mistaking him. Could it be a combination? Or was it photoshopped? I don't think it's real. Qi Xiaoyuan glanced at Lin Yan as he spoke. I knew you would say that. That's why I asked Sun Xuan to come, the imposter said expressionlessly. This video isn't edited, one of the team captains explained. I've done some research in this area. If it's a composite, I'll definitely be able to tell that it's Sun Xuan. There's nothing wrong with the video. Is it really a misunderstanding? Andrea was surprised, and there was some uneasiness in her eyes. Hence, to put it bluntly, she was indeed Boss Yeva. What had happened on the track had been a coincidence. They had wrongly accused Boss and even treated her rudely. The video is indeed real. Wei Shifeng chimed in. If the video was edited, I would have been able to tell. I will take responsibility for what I said. At this moment, everyone present more or less felt a little guilty. They hadn't been friendly to Yeva just now. Then, can I prove my identity now? The imposter on the sofa asked. Boss, it was too much of a coincidence. Besides, Wei Shifeng frowned as he explained. Chapter 518. Hearing that, the imposter shook her head and said, I can understand. If I were you, I would also suspect that it was too much of a coincidence. But no matter how much of a coincidence it is, I am me. I can't become someone else. Boss, I'm so sorry. I offended you. Andrea glanced at Yeva uneasily. It's fine, the imposter said. What's going on? Qi Xiaoyuan's face was filled with confusion. With Wei Shifeng and the other team leaders' testimony, the video couldn't have been edited. However, if it was real, Sun Xuan, as Yeva's disciple, should have met his master before. How could he be mistaken? Sister-in-law, you're in big trouble. Let's get out of here. Pei Yutong pulled Lin Yan aside and spoke hastily. Lin Yan was the one who had instigated this. Now that the truth had been revealed, everything had been a misunderstanding. Everyone was going to settle the score with Lin Yin soon. There's no hurry. Lin Yin chuckled softly. Pei Yutong. Daddy, we're in such dire straits. Why aren't you anxious? Pei Yutong sighed heavily. He didn't know what else to say. Boss, how's your injury? Wei Shifeng glanced at the girl on the couch. It's fine, don't worry, the imposter said. Lin Shuya and Han Yishuan could finally relax when they saw the situation. The video was enough to prove that the girl in front of him was indeed Yeva. There couldn't be any more unforeseen circumstances. Sister, I know that you hate me, but Madame Yeva is Yishuan's and my guest. How could you slander her? Sister, you wanted to race with Madame Yeva and she agreed. She even endured the pain. Lin Shuya glanced at Lin Yen with an aggrieved expression. Everyone's eyes darted to Lin Yen at Lin Shuya's words. That's right. Think about it carefully. It was indeed this woman who stirred things up first. What kind of intentions does she have? He's just a member of a junior team, an unknown actor, yet he dares to be so lawless? Had he wronged Madame Yeva? What an ingrate! How could Madame Yeva lower herself to race with her? The female captain of the K1 team sneered coldly. Frankly speaking, this has nothing to do with Miss Lin Yen. When Yeva lost to Miss Lin Yen, all of you started to suspect her identity. Isn't it too much to push the blame to her? Qi Xiaoyuan glanced at everyone. Indeed, this has nothing to do with Miss Lin. Godzi chimed in. No matter what, Lin Yen is my sister. Please don't blame her. If you want to blame someone, blame me. I apologize. Lin Shuya bowed deeply to the crowd. Shuya, this has nothing to do with you. You don't have to protect her. You mentioned this morning that Madame Yeva was injured, which was why she didn't compete with K1. Lin Yen was there too, so she knew about it. That's why she provoked Madame Yeva. She came here today to cause trouble. Han Yishuan glanced at Lin Shuya. That's right, Miss Shuya. Even if she's your sister, why should you bear the responsibility for her mistakes? Does she deserve to be your sister? The female captain of the K1 team said. Chapter 519. Lin Yen, I didn't expect you to be such a person. Wei Shifeng gazed at Lin Yen, his eyes filled with disappointment. Who invited this woman? I don't want to see such a person. Please get the staff to ask her to leave. The imposter's eyes were filled with disgust and disgust. Pei Yutong wanted to speak up for Lin Yen, but he didn't know what to say. Qi Xiaoyuan's face was filled with hatred as well. However, things had developed beyond their control. Are you guys done? Suddenly, the corners of Lin Yan's mouth curled up into a smile as she spoke nonchalantly. Lin Yan, apologize to Boss Yeva. Wei Shifeng hissed coldly. I don't think it's appropriate to apologize to an imposter. Lin Yan grinned. What did you say? What's wrong with this woman's head? Why is she still claiming that Madame Yeva is an imposter? She is trying to scam us. Lin Yan, what evidence do you have to prove that Boss Yeva is an imposter? Wei Shifeng eyed Lin Yan coldly. Evidence. Lin Yan shook her head, unbothered by everyone's gazes. If I say that she is an imposter, then she is an imposter. My words are the evidence. Wow. I didn't expect to see such a shameless person. One of the K1 members clicked his tongue. Miss Lin Yan, given your status, you don't even have the right to speak to Madame Yeva. Not only did you get to meet her today, but you even raced with her. Not only are you not grateful, but you have also slandered her. I think that young Master Qi and Godzi have made the wrong friends. The K1 captain glanced at Godzi. Godzi, how could you invite such a person to Madame Yeva's private dinner? If word gets out, ZH1's reputation will be tarnished. Godzi and Mumu looked awkward, as they couldn't understand Lin Yan's actions. Pei Yutong wanted to say something, but Lin Shuya received a notification from the security guards that a young man named Sun Shuaren was visiting. Mr. Sun Shuaren is here, Lin Shuya announced. As they spoke, Sun Shuaren strode into the manor. He was dressed in a suit with a leather collar. Shuaren. The imposter stood up with a smile on her face. She ignored Lin Yan and strode out of the hall. Master, long time no see. Sun Xuan looked at the impostor and smiled. It's Sun Xuan. When Sun Xuan appeared, Wei Shufeng and the rest were certain that the girl was Yeva. Wei Shufeng eyed Lin Yin coldly before he trailed after her. Daddy, did you see that? Sun Xuan is really here. That woman isn't fake. Pei Yutong hurriedly told Lin Yin. Let's leave now. Lin Yin glanced at the man. She recognized him. He was one of her disciples, Sun Xuan. It was a pity that Sun Xuan hadn't seen Lin Yin. Otherwise, the expression on his face would have been a sight to behold. Mr. Sun Xuan, may I ask if this is really Yeva? Qi Xiaoyuan stepped forward with a frown. Sun Xuan glanced at Qi Xiaoyuan and chuckled softly. What are you talking about? Is there another Yeva? Chapter 520. Mr. Sun Xuan. To be honest, a member of the team questioned Madame Yeva's identity. The female captain of the K1 team replied. Oh, is that so? That's interesting. Sun Xuan was nonchalant. Where is Lin Yin? Ask her to come here. The female captain of the K1 team hissed coldly. Pei Yutong sighed heavily. He was doomed. He couldn't escape even if he wanted to. Daddy, what should we do now? Pei Yutong glanced at Lin Yin. Lin Yin, who was smiling faintly, didn't look the least bit flustered. What are you afraid of? Let's go and meet Sun Xuan, Lin Yin replied. Pei Yutong replied. Daddy, I feel that. I will die because of you tonight. Lin Yin strode forward, and Pei Yutong had no choice but to trail behind her. It was late at night, and the villa was dark. Sun Xuan saw a black figure approaching slowly, but he couldn't see her face clearly. Is she the one? Sun Xuan asked softly. Yes, Mr. Sun Xuan. This is the woman who has been causing trouble and provoking Madame Yeva. The female captain of the K1 team nodded. Mr. Sun Xuan, given your and Madame Yeva's status, there's no need for you to interact with such a small fry. You can ask the security guards to chase them away. I think that Miss Lin Yin must have some misunderstanding with Madame Yeva. There's no need to call the security guards, Godzi replied with a frown. Mr. Sun Xuan, Madame Yeva, I'm really sorry. Please don't blame my sister. If you want to blame someone, just blame me. I will take full responsibility. Lin Shuya stepped forward. Shuya, this has nothing to do with you. Everyone saw your sincerity and your feelings for Lin Yin. However, Lin Yin has gone overboard. She should bear the consequences herself. Wei Shufeng glanced at Lin Shuya as he spoke. Shuya, I told you that Lin Yin is a vicious person with ulterior motives. You will be killed by her sooner or later. Han Yishuan pulled Lin Shuya to his side. This was a good show. Soon, Lin Yin entered everyone's line of sight with a smile on her face. Mr. Sun Xuan, what do you think? The corners of Lin Yan's mouth curled into a smile as she glanced at Sun Xuan, who was rubbing his eyes. Where did this woman come from? Who is Mr. Sun Xuan? First, she provoked Madame Yeva, and now, she's speaking to Mr. Sun Xuan in such a manner? Lin Yin, you're digging your own grave. Wei Shufeng glared at Lin Yin, his eyes filled with disgust and disgust. Lin Yin ignored Wei Shufeng and the others. Her eyes were gleaming as she gazed at Sun Xuan. At this moment, Sun Xuan's face was filled with disbelief. How could he not recognize the woman in front of him? Sun Xuan was so shocked that his body started to tremble. What are you waiting for, woman? Are you really going to let the security force you to leave? The female captain of K1 shouted coldly. Shut your filthy mouth. Sun Xuan yelled at the female captain of the K1 team. Ah! The female captain of K1 looked puzzled. Was Sun Xuan talking to her? Sun Xuan, tell me, is this girl your master Yeva? Lin Yin grinned at Sun Xuan. Chapter 521. Sun Xuan stared at Lin Yin, who was smiling at him. Beads of perspiration formed on his forehead. He had never imagined that his master would appear at such a private event. At this moment, everyone looked at Sun Xuan in confusion. They had no idea what was going on. Lin Yan, what are you? Wei Shufeng stared at Lin Yan intently. Before he could finish, Sun Xuan shook his head. No, it's not. It's not. As soon as Sun Xuan's voice fell, the entire place fell into a strange silence. It was so quiet that one could hear the heartbeats of the people around them. What did Sun Xuan mean by that? Sun Xuan? Seeing this, the impostor frowned deeply. She looked at Sun Xuan as a look of surprise surfaced in her eyes. No one knew what was going on, but Qi Xiaoyuan knew exactly what was going on. Qi Xiaoyuan grinned at Sun Xuan. Sun Xuan probably hadn't expected to bump into Yeva here. Mr. Sun Xuan, what do you mean? Andrea glanced at Sun Xuan, looking perplexed. Sun Xuan wasn't in the mood to care about them. His heart was pounding uneasily. Follow me. Lin Yan strode to the hall without turning back. To everyone's disbelief, Sun Xuan followed Lin Yan to the hall. K1 and Andrea had wanted to follow them, but Qi Xiaoyuan had stopped them. Young Master Qi, what are you doing? One of the K1 captains asked. She has something to say. It has nothing to do with you. Why are you eavesdropping? Qi Xiaoyuan sneered coldly. One of the K1 captains felt awkward, but he didn't say anything. Captain, this is weird. Miss Lin Yan and Sun Xuan know each other. Judging by his attitude, something doesn't seem right. Mumu whispered to Godzi. Godzi nodded in response. Mumu was right. He was curious about their relationship as well. Don't talk. Let's follow them secretly. Godzi instructed softly. Okay. Mumu nodded. Mumu and Godzi watched as Qi Xiaoyuan argued with everyone else. Then they slipped into the darkness. Lin Yan sat on the couch in the living room as she studied Sun Xuan, with a faint smile on her face. Sun Xuan, who was standing beside Lin Yan, had lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong and was waiting to be punished. Sun Xuan, do you have anything to say? Lin Yan stared at Sun Xuan for some time before she spoke. Hearing this, Sun Xuan's body trembled slightly. His eyebrows were deeply knitted together. Master. Master? Lin Yan grinned. That girl should be your master, right? No. Master, I have my reasons. Master, please listen to my explanation. It's definitely not what you think, Sun Xuan said anxiously. All right, I'll listen to your excuses, replied Lin Yan. Master, I'm not quibbling. I'm trying to explain myself. I know that I'm in the wrong, but, Master, that girl has been impersonating you for months. I exposed her the first time. Sun Xuan sighed heavily as he tried to explain himself. However, at this moment, Godzi and Mumu, who were hiding outside the door, stood rooted to the ground. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Chapter 522. Lin Yan sat quietly on the couch in the living room as she listened to Sun Xuan's explanation. After some time, Lin Yan glanced at Sun Xuan. So what you're saying is that you were the one who exposed the girl when she pretended to be me. In the end, you fell in love with her? This was beyond Lin Yan's expectations. What kind of miracle was this? Master. Sigh. I really had no choice. Sun Xuan let out a sigh. I warned her not to continue her deceit, let alone impersonate her master. I didn't expect her to do such a thing again. She called me and told me that she had been exposed, and that she was in danger. I didn't think it through, and helped her cover up her lie out of selfishness. The silver car. Lin Yan gazed at Sun Xuan deep in thought. It was me. After the incident, she drove away in her racing car and called me. I happened to be in China, and I wasn't far from where she was. So I rushed over to help her think of a solution. I was also the one who tampered with the racing car, so the brakes and steering didn't work. As for the injury on her leg, it was already there, Sun Xuan explained. No wonder. Lin Yan nodded. If Sun Xuan had stepped forward to help, then everything could be explained. It was no wonder that the impostor dared to come back. She was relying on none other than Sun Xuan's trump card. Master, I'm begging you. Please forgive me this time. Sun Xuan looked anxious when Lin Yan remained silent. If this matter were to be spread out, how would he face his fellow disciples? If he helped a woman impersonate their master, he wouldn't be able to continue living in this world. Do you really like her? Lin Yan was curious. Don't you like aloof women? Sun Xuan was speechless. No. Actually, I like her. She doesn't know that I like her. So she thinks that I need money too. She even promised to give me half of the money. Master, you know that I don't need money. I just sigh. Sun Xuan looked helpless. Lin Yan was completely speechless. Sun Xuan had already put it this way. So what else could she say? This is the only time. If I catch you again. Lin Yan eyed Sun Xuan intently. Master, don't worry. You won't find out. Sun Xuan vowed. What? Lin Yan's face hardened. No. Master, what I mean is that there won't be a next time. So you won't be able to find out, Sun Xuan said anxiously. That's more like it. Lin Yan nodded. Master, aren't you mad at me anymore? Sun Xuan asked boldly when he noticed that Lin Yan's expression had softened. On account of your filial piety, I will let it go this time. However, like I said, if I catch you again, I will make you suffer. Lin Yan grinned. Thank you, Master. Oh yeah, Master. That girl. Sun Xuan stared at Lin Yan intently. On your account. I won't pursue the matter this time. Go out and tell everyone who she really is. Then take her away. Lin Yan pondered for a moment before she spoke. Chapter 523. Sun Xuan heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Lin Yan. Outside the hall, Godzi and Mumu were dumbfounded. Mumu snapped back to his senses and stared at Godzi in disbelief. Captain, oh my God. Sun Xuan called Miss Lin Yan. Master. He even said that the impostor was impersonating her. Godzi, who was equally shocked, asked. Did we hear wrongly? Mumu shook his head frantically. How is that possible? Captain, you heard wrongly. How could you have heard everything wrongly? Besides, it's impossible for both of you to have heard everything wrongly. Godzi inhaled deeply as he stared at Mumu in shock. In other words, Miss Lin Yan is the real racetrack's Grim Reaper. Yeva. Mumu broke out in a cold sweat. Are we dreaming? Captain, oh my God. This is unbelievable. The racetrack's Grim Reaper is Miss Lin Yan. She has a good relationship with us, and even ate with us. She even helped us with the race. I'm going crazy. Mumu scratched his head. No wonder. No wonder. Godzi seemed to have recalled something. Captain, what do you mean by no wonder? Asked Mumu. Think about it carefully. Miss Lin Yan, you're just a rookie racer. It doesn't make sense that you would be able to drive so well. Do you think it makes sense that you would be able to outperform everyone except Air Force? Godzi frowned. No, that doesn't make sense. Mumu replied. I finally understand. No wonder Air Commander of Speed looked strange when he saw Miss Lin Yan and refused to race with her. It's possible that Air Commander had seen Yeva's face before. That's why he recognized Miss Lin Yan. Godzi quipped. Realization dawned on Mumu. Yes. That's right. Now that Captain mentioned it, I remember. Also, Miss Lin Yan led her cousin to victory as a navigator. If it was Yeva, it would be easy. Yeva is a racer, so she should be a top navigator. Godzi added. Oh my God. The He family is really stupid. How could they not know that Lin Yan is Yeva? Captain, why did Yeva hide her identity? I can understand why she returned to the country after retiring. After all, this is her home. Why did she become an actress? Mumu was puzzled. I don't know. Godzi shook his head. Perhaps. Yeva likes to act. As for hiding her identity, she has always been like that. Doesn't she wear a helmet every time she appears? She doesn't accept interviews or appear in public. I'm not sure either. Captain, does this have anything to do with Yeva's retirement? Or is it not appropriate for Yeva to become an insignificant actress? Is that why she chose to hide her identity? Mumu pondered for a moment before asking. How would I know? Godzi rolled his eyes at Mumu. I'm not Yeva. Who am I supposed to ask? Mumu was speechless. It's true, Captain. There are many strange things in this world. I can't believe that such a thing happened to us. Oh my God. We actually let Yeva fight on behalf of ZH1. We even fought with Yeva before. I'm a diehard fan of hers, Mumu exclaimed excitedly. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.